The ground beneath your feet is no longer solid. The world you knew is already gone, and the weight of an entire sky is beginning to fall. Aside from the four great sacred grounds, the only place within profound Sky 7 nations which possessed monarchs was the Divine Phoenix Sect. The birth of the first monarch in the history of the Divine Phoenix Sect signified that the strength of the sect was now on an entirely different level. The most telltale sign that a sect's strength was constantly growing would be the number of monarchs within the sect increasing. 1,000 years ago, the number of monarchs within Divine Phoenix Sect exceeded 10. This shocked everyone within the profound Sky Continent, including the four great sacred grounds. It also meant that Divine Phoenix Sect had gained the right to truly speak on the same level as the four great sacred grounds. Within this 5,000 years, the monarchs of Divine Phoenix Sect had always died of old age, and the monarchs who filled in the open positions would only be even stronger. And a monarch falling in battle had never once happened in the history of Divine Phoenix Sect. Currently, the Divine Phoenix Sect had a total of 13 monarchs, and within the sect, there might be even stronger trump cards lying hidden, but it would not surpass the number of 13 by too huge a margin. Thus, the fall of a monarch's direct effect would be an instant reduction in terms of the deterrence level of the Divine Phoenix Sect by a large degree. And to the entire sect, it definitely couldn't be considered as an outcome of merely having one of their fingers broken. Instead, it would be seemingly equivalent to having one of their hands chopped off. It would be shattering one of the only few tens of cornerstones which the Divine Phoenix Sect possessed. Hence, Feng Henkong's words were undoubtedly a thunderbolt under a blue sky that rang in the ears of all the Phoenix clansmen. Among the crowd of Phoenix elders and princes, all of their expressions changed greatly to one of astonishment. Although these were words personally conveyed by the Divine Phoenix Sect Master, no matter how, they simply could not believe them. Impossible, after all. Elder Tianyu is a monarch, the strongest being in this world. How could he possibly die? Impossible. Could Yun Qi? No, impossible. With Elder Tianyu's strength, how could he possibly lose to Yun Qi? Even if he encountered someone from the sacred grounds, he shouldn't have met with an incident in such a short amount of time, Sect Master. There must be some kind of mistake. Tianqing. What about Grand Elder Tianqing? The crowd of Phoenix elders were in a fluster. The fall of a Phoenix monarch was a loss and blow countless times heavier than the deaths of 4 princes and 5 elders. Feng Henkong's expression was deathly pale. He had already faintly guessed that it might really be Yun Qi's doing, before his soul and expression could even ease up a little. The shattering sound of the other soul imprint reverberated in his mind, causing his pupils to widen once again. His chest, which was already feeling extreme discomfort to begin with, felt like it had been ruthlessly pierced by another poisonous blade. Elder Tianqing has also died, Feng Henkong softly said. With hollow eyes and a limp body under this extremely heavy shock, he was no longer able to gather the least bit of strength. Another bolt of heavenly lightning ruthlessly struck into everyone's souls, causing the world in front of their eyes to spin. The soul imprints of all core members of the sect were carved into the soul of every generation of Divine Phoenix Sect Masters, and these soul imprints were connected to the lives of every corresponding person. At the moment of their deaths, the soul imprints would shatter, and the Phoenix Sect Masters would be the first to know of them. These words, which were personally spoken by Feng Henkong, could never be jokes. His tone and reaction clearly indicated that both Feng Tianyu's and Feng Tianqing's soul imprints had shattered and disappeared. Just who is it? Feng Feili said with a trembling voice. It definitely cannot be Yun Qi. Even if Yun Qi has the greatest of talent, it's impossible for him to be a match for 2 Grand Elders. Nor is it possible for him to kill 2 Grand Elders in such a short amount of time. Just who is it? Feng Ziming growled. In this world, the ones capable of causing the deaths of 2 Grand Elders can only possibly be people from the sacred grounds. Are they preparing to breach decorum with us? A Phoenix Elder said while gnashing his teeth. Among them, not a single one of them believed that Yun Qi was the culprit behind Feng Tianyu's and Feng Tianqing's deaths. Feng Tianyu was a level 3 monarch, and Feng Tianqing was a level 2 monarch. Felling a monarch could be considered as the most difficult task in the profound Sky Continent. To consecutively kill Feng Tianyu and Feng Tianqing in just a short 7 to 8 minutes, it was definitely impossible even for a level 5 monarch. Sect Master, I shall investigate this matter with haste, Feng Feili said as he prepared to ascend into the skies. Even Elder Tianyu and Elder Tianqing lost their lives together. Are you preparing to send yourself to death? His sunken voice stopped Feng Feili's body in the air. Feng Henkang finally stood up, but his face was still miserably pale. Every single one of the muscles in his face was twitching uncontrollably, and the profound aura emitting from his body was even more chaotic. The developments every single day had far surpassed his predictions, and the consequences grew even more terrifying as each day went by. In the beginning, Yun Qi's arrival had even delighted him, seeing it as the former walking right into their trap. However, in just short 4 days, Yun Qi had destroyed the Phoenix God sculpture, killed 4 of his sons, 5 elders, and more than 100 disciples. And now, he had actually killed 2 grand elders who were at the sovereign profound realm. He had truly shaken the cornerstones of his Divine Phoenix Sect. In these 4 days, he felt as though he had been dreaming, an surreal yet extremely terrifying nightmare. He was already beginning to realize that what he had offended was not just a small figure whom he could toy around with, but a true devil. Minger, Feng Henkang absent-mindedly mumbled. This son is present. Feng Ziming hurriedly stepped forward. Feng Henkang reached out his hand and passed a mysterious jade, which was emitting out a blazing red light, into Feng Ziming's hands. This is the Phoenix God Jade. Take it and enter the Phoenix Fire Divine Realm, find your grandfather. Tell him, Elder Tianyu and Elder Tianking had already fallen, and your 4 royal brothers. But Feng Ziming held onto the Phoenix God Jade and was at a loss for a moment. The Phoenix Fire Divine Realm was the absolute forbidden grounds of Divine Phoenix Sect. He was the Divine Phoenix Crown Prince, however. Ever since he had been born 100-odd years ago, he had never been allowed to enter. Hurry and go? Yes. Feng Ziming could only agree as he hastily flew in the direction of the Phoenix God Great Hall. The only entrance to the Phoenix Fire Divine Realm was the Phoenix God Great Hall. Feng Henkang did not choose to personally head there himself because he felt that he did not have the face to meet his own father. As the Divine Phoenix Sect Master, the consequences of losing 2 monarchs was something he knew more clearly than anyone else. It was an immense loss that could only be remedied by spending immeasurable resources and effort. No matter. Feng Feili let out a long sigh. Our sect's strength grows gradually with every passing year, and has long caused the 4 great sacred grounds to feel restless. They must have long devised a scheme. With the presence of ancestral Phoenix God as a deterrent, they do not dare to act rashly in Phoenix City. And this time, Elder Tianyu and Elder Tianking had left the boundaries of Phoenix City, and hence were plotted against. This was the only explanation which Feng Feili could think of with his own knowledge and experience. Because in this world, only the 4 sacred grounds were capable of killing Feng Tianyu and Feng Tianking. Although this explanation was a little forced, other than this, he could not think of any other possibilities. No, Feng Henkang, however, slowly shook his head. People from the 4 great sacred grounds, even if a master of the 4 great sacred grounds personally make an appearance, he would still not easily make a move against the monarchs of our divine sect. The person who killed Elder Tianyu and Elder Tianking was Yun Qi. What? The surrounding people was thrown into a great shock, and afterwards, what their faces showed were expressions of complete and utter disbelief. That's impossible. That's definitely impossible. No matter how strong Yun Qi is, how can he possibly be a match against 2 grand elders who have stepped into the sovereign profound realm? And earlier, when facing an attack from the Grand Elders, Yun Qi's first reaction was clearly turning tail to flee. No matter how, Yun Qi was surely not the one who did it. It's not impossible, just because you think it's impossible. We are simply unable to believe it either. Feng Henkang's breathing was incomparably coarse. Elder Tianyu did not leave behind any soul messages before he died. Evidently, his life was taken by surprise. Elder Tianking, however, died by destroying his own lifeline and profound veins. The soul transmission he left behind before he died were only 2 words. Yun Qi. At this moment, every member of Divine Phoenix Sect held their breaths. There must be some other circumstances in this. 3 years ago, Yun Qi's strength had only slightly surpassed 14th Prince's. No matter how heaven-defying the speed of his growth is, he can't possibly. Feng Feili still could not believe it, and similarly, everyone else could not believe it either. Let's not panic for now. Once Grand Sect Master makes his way out of the Divine Realm, any kind of menace will be removed. With the calmest tone he could muster, 4th Elder consolingly said, at the moment, they could only wait for Grand Sect Master to take charge of the entire situation. When the 3 words, Grand Sect Master, were brought up, the sunken atmosphere had evidently lifted up. Although Feng Henkang was the present sect master, at his current age, he was still in his growth phase. In the hearts of this generation of elders, the three words Grand Sect Master carried countless times more weight than Sect Master. However, this lifting atmosphere did not last for long. The expressions of all Phoenix elders suddenly changed as they simultaneously looked towards the southeastern direction. Over there, a violent torrent of air was charging towards their location at breakneck speed. This time, Yun Qi did not have the slightest of intention of concealing his presence, even though there was still a distance of close to 50 kilometers between them. The terror behind his profound aura had caused the faces of all Phoenix elders to lose their color. "Hurry and activate the Phoenix Fire Barrier," Feng Henkang roared out. Such a terrifying aura, Yun Qi was clearly approaching while carrying anger and killing intent. With his abilities to kill Feng Tianyu and Feng Tianqing, if he were to immediately start a massacre the moment he arrived, no one could stop him then. Under his hands, countless of Phoenix elders and disciples would lose their lives. Before Grand Sect Master Feng Tianwei could make his way here, they definitely could not afford to suffer another immense loss. Yun Qi's speed was fully unleashed, and his profound strength was maintained at the burning heart state, as his gaze locked onto where Phoenix City was situated. Before closing in on Phoenix City, an irregular, profound energy fluctuation suddenly appeared. Yun Qi hurriedly slowed down, yet his body still ruthlessly struck onto a layer of transparent screen. With a bang, Yun Qi was knocked far back. In front of him, a crimson-red glow flashed for a moment before disappearing in the next instant. "A protective barrier?" Yun Qi's eyes narrowed as he let out a cold laugh. Summoning the heaven-smiting sword, he smashed forward. Boom! A loud explosion had seemingly shattered the skies. The entire barrier and even the entire Divine Phoenix Sect trembled. Within the barrier, a large number of Phoenix disciples whose strength were on the low side instantly turned deaf from that explosive roar, and their visions darkened then after. Within Phoenix City, countless of people rolled onto the ground, screaming in pain as they covered their ears. Boom, boom, boom. With one strike after another like a hammer of the heavens, his sword ruthlessly smashed onto the Phoenix Fire Barrier. Every single one of the strikes was earth-shattering, shaking every inch of space within Phoenix City. Boom! Upon the 13th strike, on this barrier which was protecting the entire Divine Phoenix Sect. This 1,000-year-old barrier which was protecting the #1 sect of the profound Sky 7 nations. A quickly spreading crimson-red crack appeared in front of Yun Qi. Within the barrier, the expressions of all those Phoenix elders who firmly believed that Yun Qi could not kill Feng Tianyu and Feng Tianqing changed. Their faces were filled with fear and aghast, as though they had seen the demon god of legends. West of Phoenix City, Phoenix Perching Valley. Dull explosive roars reverberated from the direction of Phoenix City, sweeping layers of shockwaves even to the quiet Jade Green Lake. On the shore of the Jade Green Lake, Feng Xue'er, who was lying on the snow phoenix and having a light nap, opened her dreamlike, beautiful eyes and looked in the direction of Phoenix City. "There are sounds coming from the city," she stood up and muttered softly to herself. "Did something big happen?" An explosive roar that could reverberate all the way here definitely could not be normal. Feng Xue'er hesitated for a short moment, and finally, because she couldn't put her heart at ease, her two snow-white hands gently touched on the snow phoenix's feathers. "Something big must have happened in the sect. Little White, we have to head back quickly." The Phoenix Fire Barrier has only been reinforced 2 months ago. Even if it were the elders Tianyu and Tianqing who are in the sovereign profound realm, it's impossible to breach it. Yun Qi, he. Everyone's eyes widened as they stared blankly at the sky. They were so shocked that they were utterly dumbfounded. Their Phoenix Sect's Phoenix Fire Barrier was undoubtedly the strongest protective barrier within the profound Sky 7 nations. Even if a mid-stage monarch were to attack it, it was not possible to destroy it in a short amount of time. However, Yun Qi had only swung his sword for a dozen odd times, yet a huge crack had already appeared in the transparent Phoenix Fire Barrier. Moreover, ear-splitting cracking noises had also echoed out. Although the cracks in the barrier quickly mended itself, under the overbearing and peerless strikes of the heaven-smiting sword, the swift regeneration speed of the barrier could only be described as fighting a losing battle. Every time Yun Qi smashed his sword down, Phoenix City would start shaking. Divine Phoenix City would also tremble as the cracks that appeared on the barrier spread quickly like wildfire. How can he possess such monstrous strength? Impossible! Impossible! Feng Feili roared while shivering in terror. Within the last hour, he could no longer clearly remember how many times he had said the word impossible. However, he was certain that even if all the shock that he had experienced in his entire life were put together, it would not be as shocking as what had happened within the last hour. Boom. When Xianxia's 29th strike landed, in the midst of the thunderous noise, cracks that looked like a huge spider web formed on the barrier in front of him. The barrier was no longer transparent, and a chaotic red glow also appeared. At the center of the red glow laid an eye-catching gap that was approximately 15 centimeters wide. The corners of Xianxia's mouth moved. This movement was followed by a cold laughter as the heaven-smiting sword stabbed straight forward. This was no longer a strike, but a stab at full force. Falling moon-sinking star! The sword light sliced through the air, easily stabbing through the Phoenix fire barrier. Following the explosive power of the heaven-smiting sword, the original opening that was only a dozen or so centimeters wide had expanded until it was more than 1.5 meters wide. From the opening, the energy within the Phoenix fire barrier surged out like water that broke the floodgates, escaping furiously from the opening of the barrier. The barrier has broken. No matter how unbelievable the scene was, it had clearly happened right before their eyes. 30 swings. Each one of them knew fully well that a total of 30 swings was used to break the sect protective barrier of the number 1 sect in profound Sky 7 nation. Xianxia's body passed through the opening of the barrier, then he flew down from the skies. Everyone suddenly felt a bone-chilling aura engulfing their mind and soul. Before today, they hated Xianxia's extreme speed. Each one of them had hoped to catch Xianxia and personally chop him to pieces. However, now that Xianxia was descending from midair, regardless of whether it was the Phoenix Sect disciples or the mighty Phoenix elders, all of their hearts felt a chill as they subconsciously retreated several steps. No one dared to take even half a step forward. The Phoenix fire barrier, which had been broken under 30 strikes, allowed them to understand with fear that the overlord's strength that they were so proud of, in front of Xianxia whom they viewed with contempt just a day ago, was insufficient for him to even bother with. There was no longer anyone who suspected that Feng Tianyu and Feng Tianqing were actually not killed by him. Protect the sect master! All the Phoenix elders hastily stood in front of Feng Hengkang and the various princes to protect them. However, their hands, which were wielding their weapons, trembled as the Phoenix flames on their body messily shook. For the previous 3 days, Xianxia had taken their prince as hostage, but today, Xianxia had finally revealed his true strength in front of the Divine Phoenix Sect, and also gave the arrogant Divine Phoenix Sect a deterrent using his absolute strength. Feng Hengkang, even though I wish that I could kill you 10,000 times and exterminate your entire clan, for the sake of my Blue Wind Nation and Xue'er, I had already given you all full 4 chances. Yet, you refused to grasp the opportunity each time. Xianxia swung his arm casually. As the heaven-smiting sword swung downwards, the almighty sword's force spread forward like a crashing tsunami. Below, hundreds of Divine Phoenix disciples attempted to escape using all of their strength, distancing themselves from this devil that was descending from the skies. However, the moment the swing of the heaven-smiting sword was completed, all their bodies shuddered strongly. Then their bones disintegrated, blood vessels burst, and meridians severed. They fell on the ground like a pool of mud. At the same time, the large plot of land dyed with the crimson color of blood had also sunk by a meter. This sudden scene had caused the already frightened Divine Phoenix clan members to be scared out of their wits. Xianxia had not made his move. He had merely swung the sword in his hands. The cause of death for the hundreds of Divine Phoenix disciples had merely been the enormous Scarlet Greatsword's force. For the disciples who had lost their lives, even the weakest of them was still in the Sky Profound realm. Who exactly are you? You cannot possibly be Xianxia. Feng Feili stood at the very front and pointed towards Xianxia as he spoke with a trembling voice. Even though Xianxia was right in front of his very eyes, he still could not relate him to the Xianxia who was only in the Earth Profound realm 3 years ago. The difference in strength of the two were on 2 entirely different levels. How was it possible that they were the same person? Seeing the various Divine Phoenix elders who grouped up in front of Feng Hengkang, Xianxia coldly and heartless insulted. Pack of Divine Phoenix old dogs, don't each of you usually act crazily above the law without regard for anyone else? Didn't each of you want to tear my corpses to pieces? Now that I'm standing here, why are all of you shaking like sieves? Such a pitiful sight. Xianxia, Feng Feili's eyes had turned bloodshot, while the tip of the sword in his hands had turned into a jade-like scarlet crystal under the effects of the phoenix flames. You, my dignified Divine Phoenix Sect, would never fear a wild brat like you. Feng Feili's eyes stared widely as he roared and stabbed straight at Xianxia. Being the strongest among this current generation of elders within Divine Phoenix Sect, Feng Feili's profound strength was at the 10th level of the Tyrant Profound realm, approaching its peak. The sword in his hands turning into scarlet crystal, which signified that his strength had reached a pinnacle level, and just a swing of his sword could burn the heavens and crack the earth. Facing the Divine Phoenix's strongest elders strike at full strength, Xianxia remained unfazed as he just casually swung the heaven-smiting sword in his hands. Bang! The heavy sword produced an extremely violent storm, bringing along phoenix flames that were at least 100 times hotter than those released by Feng Feili. The barrier shattered as though it was glass, and at the same time, Feng Feili's long sword, which had already turned into red crystals, shattered as well. The pieces of the barrier, together with the red crystal pieces, had flown everywhere during the extremely frightening profound energy explosion like torrential rain. H. Feng Feili cried miserably as he was sent flying far away. It was as though he was a soaring kite whose string had been cut. The red trail of blood was several dozen meters long in the air, and the right arm, which he was tightly grabbing onto before, had now completely disappeared from his body. Great Elder, Feili, Master. Although Xianxia had already displayed how frightening he was when he destroyed the Phoenix Fire barrier with his sword, this scene still caused everyone present to feel an inexplicable horror. The strongest person among this generation of Divine Phoenix Sect elders, while using his full strength, in one mere round of exchange with Xianxia, lost miserably and had been severely injured. Especially for the younger disciples, when the Great Elder, whom they usually viewed as a deity, had been so miserably defeated in one blow by someone who was much younger than them. They felt extremely shocked, and their beliefs had collapsed just like that. Although Feng Feili lost an arm and was severely injured, he had still yet to lose his life. However, Xianxia would never be so benevolent as to let him off. Even before Feng Feili's body had hit the ground, Xianxia swung the heaven-smiting sword once again, releasing a phoenix arrow that split the air and pursued after Feng Feili. Stop it! Boom! The phoenix arrow struck right onto Feng Feili's chest the exact moment he landed onto the ground. Phoenix flames mercilessly ignited, turning his body into ashes that scattered in the air. Great Elder! Back then, the Divine Phoenix Sect Grand Elder Feng Feiyan perished under an enraged Xia Yuanba's hands. Today, their newly promoted Great Elder had passed on once again, and this time it happened right in front of their eyes. Xianxia, my Divine Phoenix Sect swears that we would not rest until you die. My sect has the ancestral Phoenix God's protection. The ancestral Phoenix God will surely deliver divine retribution upon you. Divine Phoenix Sect's 10th Elder, Feng Lingshan, roared. He tried to use his every word to intimidate Xianxia, but his words evidently carried tremor and fear, and even a shred of despair. Heh! You still have the face to bring up the ancestral Phoenix God? Xianxia's body shifted as he instantly appeared a few hundred meters away from where he last stood. His aura was fixated on Feng Hengkang and all the Phoenix elders who were standing in front of him. This caused all of their faces to immediately turn ashen as cold sweat dripped on their bodies. The pressure Xianxia emitted when he wielded the heavy sword, and when he did not, were simply on two entirely different levels. All the mighty Phoenix elders felt as though they were about to face a frightening demon god that came from the abyss. Attack! Feng Lingshan, who spoke previously, could no longer withstand the frightening pressure and roared before rushing forward. Behind him, there were also 4 stunned Phoenix elders, but they gritted their teeth and forced themselves to attack. Even though they attacked with 5 people, they didn't dare to hold back one bit. Each one of them attacked with their most fearsome killing move. Burning Mountain Blade, Phoenix Flame Burning Heaven, Phoenix Flame Sky Piercing Sword. 5 Phoenix elders attacked at the same time. They had used the strongest set of profound arts from their respective subsects. The might of their attacks could be said to shake the heavens and earth. This was perhaps the first time in their entire lifetime that the 5 of them attacked without holding anything back. Truth be told, even though Xianxia's current strength could overwhelm any single one of the Divine Phoenix Sect elders, he definitely could not do it against a combined attack from everyone. If the various Phoenix elders were to face him calmly and set up profound formations, even though they wouldn't be able to kill Xianxia, they could still definitely force him to retreat or even severely injure him. However, the emotional trauma they suffered when Xianxia killed 2 Divine Phoenix Monarchs and broke through the barrier in 30 moves proved to be far too intense. A pack of bloodthirsty and fearsome wolves might be able to force a group of tigers back. But if the pack of wolves were scared out of their wits, even if they were only facing a single tiger, they would all turn tail and run. The group of Phoenix Elders in front of Xianxia all belonged to the latter group. This time, only a mere 5 people attacked Xianxia. As for the remaining Phoenix Elders, not one of them moved, and they only stayed around Feng Henkang. They all subconsciously thought that even if they went up against Xianxia, who had already exterminated 2 Divine Phoenix Monarchs, they would only be giving up their lives for nothing. The 5 incoming attacks brought along currents of air that hit Xianxia and caused his clothes to lift. If there were 10 people attacking, perhaps Xianxia might have to consider whether he should avoid the air waves. However, with only 5 people, there was absolutely no need for him to do so. The Heaven-Smiting Sword was ignited with phoenix flames. Behind it, a silhouette of a wolf that was made from fire appeared. The Heaven-Smiting Sword smashed out with intensity, ripping apart a black gully in the air. Phoenix Sky Wolf Slash! The gigantic Sky Wolf silhouette carried along scorching phoenix flames and shot out, flying towards the 5 Phoenix Elders with a soul-shocking whistle. It rushed towards the sword glow and flames that came from the 5 Elders. And in an instant, regardless whether it was flames, sword glow, or blade shadow, all of them were easily shattered from the impact. The surging phoenix flames dispersed into scattering fireworks in the air. 3 phoenix swords and 2 phoenix blades were also shattered, and the sharp and tiny pieces were sent flying far away. The chests of the 5 Phoenix Elders seemed as though it had been struck by lightning. They miserably screamed like wailing ghouls as their bodies were sent flying in different directions, making them seem like they were merely ruptured bags of blood. Die, all of you! Xianxia flew closer as his ice-cold killing intent locked onto the 5 Phoenix Elders who had been severely injured by the swing of his sword. He once again swung his sword towards Feng Lingshan, who was the closest to him. If this strike landed, Feng Lingshan would have definitely been obliterated. Devil spawn, you dare! Right at this time, a thunderous roar came over. The roar seemed to bring with it pressure that could overturn mountains, and this caused Xianxia to be stunned as his movement slowed in an instant. After the glow of the flames disappeared, an elder, whose eyes were filled with rage and whose face was like scarlet jade, appeared. He wore a red robe, and his hair, beard, and even eyes were dark red in color. In the middle of his forehead, a flame imprint was emitting a blood-like dense glow. Although Xianxia was not afraid of the phoenix flames, the profound strength of the person controlling these phoenix flames were extremely overbearing. It was several times stronger than Feng Tianyu's. Xianxia's eyebrows immediately knitted together tightly. Not bothering to care about Feng Lingshan any longer, he instead quickly drew back his Heaven-Smiting Sword and blocked his front. Boom! With a loud explosion in the midst of the light of flames, the Heaven-Smiting Sword smashed heavily onto Xianxia's chest, violently sending him flying out. The blood within Xianxia's body was agitated as he spat out a large mist of blood. With eyes filled with killing intent, he angrily howled before forcefully activating the evil god's barrier. Sealing cloud-locking sun! Xianxia was sent flipping in midair several dozens of times as the evil god's barrier shattered quickly. With that, he finally managed to defend against the red-robed elder's profound energy. The red-robed elder appeared shocked, but his palms swiftly flipped over. This caused 6 scattered pieces of weapon to turn into sharp, flaming scarlet crystals which pierced through the air, shooting straight at Xianxia, who had just managed to balance himself. Poo, 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 poo. Ordinary remnants of weapon had turned into the most frightening sharp blades in the hands of this red-robed elder, and the speed at which it approached was so fast that it seemed as though it transcended dimensions. By the time Xianxia had realized that danger was approaching, the 6 pieces of the weapon which were glowing with a scarlet glow had already shot into his body, causing 6 fountains of blood to burst out. Xianxia grunted as the Heaven-Smiting Sword in his hands disappeared. Using extreme mirage lightning, he shot to the east as though he was a passing storm. The eyes of the red-robed elder revealed shock once again. He was naturally fully aware of how powerful the 6 edges were. Furthermore, Xianxia had his barrier broken by the impact of his phoenix flames. Under such conditions, even if it was a level 4 Monarch, 6 obvious holes would have definitely been directly torn apart on his body. However, on Xianxia's body, only 6 scatters of blood appeared, and it did not even pierce through his body. In addition, Xianxia only had a lowly profound aura, yet the level of his speed was extremely overwhelming. Grand Sect Master! Grand Sect Master! Witnessing the red-robed elder who appeared in the skies as though he was a deity, and also forcing Xianxia to escape while being severely injured the moment he took action. All the various Phoenix elders and disciples had tears welling up in their eyes. They gazed at him like he was a god who had just answered their prayers. Royal Father! Feng Henkang looked up as he slowly moved forward. In front of this red-robed elder, the pupils of the Emperor of the Divine Phoenix Empire that reigned the world shrank. He even tried his best to maintain a humble demeanor. Grandfather! All the princes present appeared both shocked and agitated as they knelt on the ground. This red-robed elder who had just appeared was the Grand Sect Master of Divine Phoenix Sect, and also the Grand Emperor of Divine Phoenix Empire, Feng Tianwei. Since entering Phoenix Fire Divine Realm 190 years ago, he almost completely stopped asking about matters relating to the country and sect, and solely focused on his cultivation. For him who had already stepped into the sovereign profound realm, his cultivation sped up by leaps and bounds. In all these years, the only reason he had to leave Phoenix Fire Divine Realm a few times was essentially all because of Feng Xue'er. In the air, there was the quickly scattering and fragmenting protective barrier, and on the grounds of Phoenix City, which carried the 5,000-year history of the entire sect, there was only great devastation. The entire ground was covered in red phoenix blood and countless shattered corpses. As Feng Tianwei looked up, the shock that was in his eyes was replaced by extreme rage. Absolutely incorrigible. Muttering softly, Feng Tianwei did not bother himself with anyone else. His body shook, and in a flash, he was already more than 300 meters away as he chased in the direction where Xianxia escaped. Bangggg? Xianxia punched his own chest, causing the 6 weapons fragments that had stabbed into his body to fall out. At the same time, 6 bursts of blood appeared from the shock. Clenching his teeth, Xianxia did not make a sound as he quickly sealed his external injuries before taking 2 snow-colored pellet out from within the sky poison pearl. He directly consumed one while crushing the other and applying the powder on the deep wounds on his body. Ugh! Both his internal and external injuries were not light. Eventually, Xianxia still let out a painful groan. If it was not for his dragon god marrow, which made all the bones in his body as tough as profound gold, forcefully stopping the 6 weapon remnants, he wouldn't only end up with just 6 wounds, but instead 6 vivid and see-through holes. He's chasing over, Jasmine said. I know. Xianxia did not turn back as his brows tightly knitted together. There actually came a time when you're at such a disadvantage. Jasmine laughed coldly. This is such a rare sight. Who would have known that he would appear from under the ground? Xianxia gritted his teeth tightly. All the sovereigns in Divine Phoenix Sect stayed at a place called Phoenix Fire Divine Realm. The only entrance and exit to that place is the Phoenix God Main Hall located at the northwestern corner. If the aura of someone I cannot defeat appears at that position, I would have sufficient distance to insult him before I escape. However, this red-robed old fogey actually didn't play by the rules. Cough, cough, cough. Xianxia constantly spat out large clots of blood. His internal injury was evidently much more severe than his external one. With the great way of the Buddha and the body of the dragon god, the recovery speed of Xianxia's profound energy and injuries were extremely quick. However, no matter how fast it was, he could not recover instantaneously. Such injuries undoubtedly caused some impact to Xianxia's speed, and if he forcefully used all his profound energy, he would only aggravate his injuries. Even so, Xianxia's speed still seemed as fast as lightning. At least it was much faster than when he was escaping from Feng Tianyu's chase. However, Feng Tianwei was not Feng Tianyu. Not only was he not shrugged off, his dangerous aura was even approaching more and more closely. This old fogey should be Feng Tianwei. What is his profound cultivation level? Xianxia asked with a frown as he quickly calculated his current situation in his heart. Middle stage of the 6th level of the Sovereign Profound Realm, Jasmine casually replied. Sovereign Profound Realm, 6th level? Xianxia was deeply shocked. Such strength was far beyond what he had expected. Being the same generation as Feng Tianqing and Feng Tianyu, Xianxia had originally estimated that Feng Tianwei's profound strength was probably only in the 3rd level, or, at most, not exceeding the 4th level. However, he would have never imagined that Feng Tianwei's strength would actually be 3 entire levels above Feng Tianyu. And this was 3 levels in the Sovereign Profound Realm. Even though Feng Hengkang was the Divine Phoenix Sect master of the current generation, and his profound cultivation was also the highest, there were still several elders of the same generation that held similar strength to him. Even the others were not that far behind him. But for Feng Tianwei, perhaps it was because his talent was exceptional. He had completely crushed the people within the same generation in terms of strength. No wonder 2 of his attacks could injure me both internally and externally, Yuanqi muttered. However, what appeared in his eyes was not relief, but instead rage. Even a sense of insanity ignited inside him, making me, Yuanqi, turn from almighty and majestic to such a pitiful state. Who? Yuanqi heavily breathed as his chest rose and fell with intensity. The fierce look in his eyes was turning more and more irritated. Even Jasmine, who was within the sky poison pearl, could sense a hint of extreme danger. What? Yuanqi killed Feng Tianyu and Feng Tianqing? When Zai received this news, he was utterly shocked. He was shocked that Yuanqi's strength was so overwhelming, it far exceeded his expectations yet again. More than that, he was shocked that Yuanqi would do something like killing divine monarchs. 2 of them, in fact. No matter which sacred ground it was, the fall of a monarch was a huge news that would even alert the other sacred grounds. For Divine Phoenix Sect, whose number of monarchs were considered sparse compared to the sacred grounds, this was a huge matter that shook the world. Furthermore, it was the passing of 2 monarchs. This was as though the foundations of Divine Phoenix Sect had been uprooted. Truly a madman that is capable of doing anything. Zai uttered this line, which completely did not match his calm temperament. Exterminating 2 Divine Phoenix Sect sovereigns. This will cause Feng Tianwei and all the Divine Phoenix sovereigns in seclusion to act. What's worse is that this might even anger the ancestral Phoenix god, causing it to act personally. Do we have to remind Yuanqi? The person beside Zai asked. No, Zai shook his head slowly. The development of this matter can no longer be controlled. Divine Phoenix Sect would most likely attack in full force. Even if it's us, we can no longer meddle in this matter. Judging from the development of the situation, it's probably time for Yuanqi's backer, Old Man Duotian, to appear. Otherwise, when the enraged Divine Phoenix Sect send all their monarchs out, even if Yuanqi had 100 lives, it still wouldn't be enough. If Old Man Duotian were to face the Divine Phoenix Sect's Phoenix Spirit, who would come out ahead? The green-robed man standing beside Zai could not help but ask. Zai silently thought for a while before saying, if the description of Old Man Duotian's strength that Sun Moon Divine Hall provided was no exaggeration, Old Man Duotian would most likely win. He would even beat the Divine Phoenix Sect's ancestral Phoenix god in an overwhelming manner. This is probably also the biggest reason why Yuanqi dared to kill 2 Divine Phoenix Sect monarchs. Having absolute strength, unlimited potential, and a backing that is overbearing. His personality is even cruel and resolute. Zai let out a long sigh as he uttered, this kind of person, unless we are certain that we can kill him, we must not offend him. And if we have absolute confidence in killing him, we must not waste one moment in killing him. The sooner he dies, the better. We cannot have any bit of sympathy towards him. What shall this subordinate do next? Feng Tianwei has already appeared, and all the other Divine Phoenix monarchs would probably leave Phoenix Fire Divine Realm. This subordinate is afraid that it's already too difficult to blend among them. There is already too much of a commotion, so we no longer need to observe from up close. Swiftly inform Absolute Monarch Sanctuary, Sun Moon Divine Hall, and Mighty Heavenly Sword Region that Yuanqi has killed Feng Tianyu and Feng Tianqing. 2 monarchs falling in the hands of a 22-year-old. This is no longer a simple matter of grudge between Yuanqi and Divine Phoenix Sect. Understood. The wind howled as Yuanqi flew out of the boundaries of Divine Phoenix City towards the south. Behind him, an enormous red figure was chasing him. This figure seemed to be slowly approaching him as time passed. What are you planning to do? Sensing Yuanqi's chaotic wave of emotion, Jasmine asked. What you're considering now doesn't seem to be how to shake the old man behind you off. Yuanqi did not reply at all. Only his eyes constantly twitched. No one seemed to know what he was thinking about. In 15 minutes at most, he'll be able to catch up to you. However, if you activated your purgatory gate now, it would only take you 15 minutes to completely shake him off as well, Jasmine said in a low voice. Jasmine, what might be the consequences if I were to destroy Phoenix City? Yuanqi placed his right hand on his chest as he took in the essence of heaven and earth to swiftly recuperate his injuries. His voice was exceptionally calm, without even a hint of nervousness from being chased by a level 6 monarch. HMPH, it sure matches your personality. Jasmine did not give a straightforward reply, but instead laughed coldly. You killed 4 Divine Phoenix princes, numerous elders, 2 monarchs, and sent their entire sect into a sea of chaos. All that's missing is digging out their ancestors' graves. You've only suffered some moderate injuries currently, yet you have so much hatred and killing intent towards them. All of those were what they deserved. I have already been magnanimous enough with them. Xianxia replied softly. He continued to speed up, though. At his current speed, he could prevent himself from being caught by Feng Tianwei in a short amount of time, while at the same time, he could also stabilize his injuries at a relatively swift pace. I never wanted to act so cruelly at the start, but since even Feng Tianwei has appeared, and he is much stronger than expected, I have no choice but to deliver the final big gift earlier. Jasmine. Unknowingly, they had already traveled for hundreds of kilometers, and Feng Tianwei, who was originally kilometers behind Xianxia, was now less than 600 meters away from him. Divine Phoenix City had also long vanished from their sight. Contrary to the composed Xianxia, Feng Tianwei, the chasing party who also possessed overwhelming strength, was actually the one who was completely shocked instead. He had already used his full strength and pushed his speed to the very limits, yet in the few hundred kilometers of chase, not to mention catching up to Xianxia, he had only closed the distance between them by about 1.5 kilometers only. Previously in Phoenix City, after he had injured Xianxia, he did not give chase immediately. Instead, he examined Phoenix City's condition first. As a level 6 monarch, Feng Tianwei felt that chasing Xianxia, who was severely injured and whose strength was far below his, would undoubtedly be an easy task. However, in all actuality, he was constantly shocked along the chase. The profound energy fluctuations Xianxia emitted, while escaping, was indeed only at the 3rd level of the Emperor Profound realm. However, his speed while being injured only paled slightly in comparison. Furthermore, when Xianxia was flying, his aura was extremely stable. It didn't have any disruptions in the slightest. Obviously, the injuries Xianxia received were not as severe as he originally thought. Someone in the Emperor Profound realm would actually possess such speed. When he appeared, his rage led him to use at least 70% of his profound strength. Yet, this only caused Xianxia to receive injuries that was insufficient to disrupt his breathing. Feng Tianwei was both shocked and doubtful at the same time. Like Feng Tianyu before, the killing intent in his heart grew 10 times greater than he previously had. This person absolutely cannot be spared. At present, Xianxia no longer had anywhere to escape. Although Xianxia's speed was extremely abnormal, Feng Tianwei had finally caught up to him within 600 meters. If Feng Tianwei could get a little bit closer, he could directly attack Xianxia and knock him down from the sky. And this time, he was going to use all his might to ensure Xianxia's death in the shortest time possible. Feng Tianwei's scarlet eyes had a bone-chilling gaze. As the Phoenix Grand Sect Master, he originally could not be bothered to personally go after a junior. However, this junior had made him feel an extreme sense of danger. Although Xianxia had saved Feng Xue'er, the most important person within Divine Phoenix Sect, without regard for his life 3 years ago, now that he had become a massive threat and the sect's mortal enemy, he definitely had to die. As a cold sheen flashed, both of Feng Tianwei's arms ignited with phoenix flames. He started to concentrate his profound energy, waiting until he got close enough before mercilessly attacking. At this time, he noticed that Xianxia suddenly slowed down, massively reducing the gap between them. Finally running out of steam, Feng Tianwei muttered as he lifted his arms that were concentrated with phoenix energy. Right at the moment when he was about to strike, Xianxia, who had been standing right there, had suddenly disappeared from his sight. Feng Tianwei's brows tightly knitted together as he rushed swiftly to the spot where Xianxia was and scanned the surrounding area. Xianxia's figure had disappeared. But what truly shocked Feng Tianwei was that even his aura had completely disappeared as well. Profound concealing techniques were nothing new, but for monarchs, profound concealing techniques were nothing but a joke. Because no matter how perfectly the body was hidden, it was still impossible to hide the profound aura from the all-powerful senses of a monarch. Therefore, when Feng Tianwei saw that Xianxia had disappeared, his brows shifted slightly, and in the next instant his expression changed drastically. Not only had Xianxia's body disappeared, even his aura had completely vanished. Furthermore, Xianxia had completely vanished while Feng Tianwei was staring at him and had his senses locked onto him. In his hundreds of years of life, he had neither encountered nor heard of such a thing before. He released his profound aura to its very limits, and within a radius of several dozens of kilometers, not to mention living beings, even the movement of a blade of grass could not escape from his senses. However, even though after searching with all his strength for some time within the radius of his senses, he could not detect any trace of Xianxia. "Xianxia, show yourself!" Feng Tianwei scanned the area as he shouted with a thunderous voice. Due to his intense rage, the phoenix flames within his body surged and blasted out viciously. Boom! Several dozens of kilometers had instantly turned into a sea of flames, Riyip. Following the shrieks of the space, Xianxia reappeared in the skies above Phoenix City and floated at an altitude of 10 kilometers above the ground. On his body, a scarlet flame burned, releasing a glow that was not too strong. This time, he was not using phoenix flames, but instead the golden crow flames, which were much hotter, violent, and heartless. In his hands, he kept the palm-sized, primordial, profound arc gradually. He opened his arms, causing the flames on the surface of his body to become denser. But although the glow wasn't too eye-catching, it still creepily turned the sky redder and redder. Before long, the sky above Xianxia had turned into a ferocious scarlet-golden color. The scarlet-golden area was constantly moving, as though it was flowing lava. Xianxia's body also gradually descended, and each time he descended, the scarlet-golden area would spread. At the same time, a terrifying scorching heat started to envelop the ground below. Extermination domain, yellow spring ashes. Xianxia's entire body was now shining in a scarlet-golden color. Especially his eyes, which were so eye-catching that they already seemed to be burning, and his mouth, which seemed to be uttering the curses of a devil. Xianxia's previous attacks had killed the Divine Phoenix Sect Great Elder, had severely injured 5 other elders, and had taken the lives of hundreds of disciples. The 5 severely injured Phoenix Elders had all been sent to the medicinal hall, while a group of Phoenix Sect disciples stayed behind to clear up the mess. Although the Grand Sect Master, Feng Tianwei, had personally come out of seclusion, and this disaster could also finally come to an end since Xianxia could not possibly escape from Feng Tianwei's clutches. No matter how miserably Xianxia died in the hands of Feng Tianwei, there was no way of recovering Divine Phoenix Sect's losses, especially the fall of 2 monarchs. That was why Phoenix City was in such a gloomy state, to point where not even a single person could manage to laugh. Feng Henkang, along with the other Phoenix Elders, had also gone to the medicinal hall to help stabilize the injuries of the 5 severely injured elders. "Royal Father, I have already sent personnel out of the city to search for the remains of the 2 Grand Elders." Seeing Feng Henkang's dark expression, Feng Ziming touched his lips and stopped speaking. "Ha!" Feng Henkang let out a long sigh. With a sorrowful expression, he regretfully said, "If only yesterday we had directly begged Royal Father to take action. This is not Sect Master's fault." 4th Elder shook his head and continued. No one could have expected that Xianxia's strength would be at such a level. On the first few days, Xianxia would always try to escape after making his kill. He must have intended to hide his true strength in order to make us careless. 2 monarchs, 4 princes, 6 elders. Such severe damage had never happened in the history of the Divine Phoenix Sect. This was a disaster and shame that the sect could never ever forget. Feng Henkang closed his eyes and uttered in misery, "All has already been lost. Now I can only hope that Xue'er has not been alerted." Thinking about the shattering of the Phoenix Fire barrier, he could only shake his head in grief. "I'm afraid this can no longer be kept from Xue'er." But before he could finish speaking, Feng Henkang's expression suddenly darkened. At the same time, the various elders, who were treating the 5 severely injured elders, looked up as their expressions darkened as well. Because the temperature of the air suddenly rose at a frightening rate. A frightening pressure, which was not too strong but still felt like a demon had just descended from the sky, was growing and approaching at a significant pace. Boom! Feng Henkang broke through the roof and flew up. As he looked up, he could see a circular scarlet-golden area in the skies in the distance, which caused the surrounding skies to turn red from its brilliance. Below the scarlet-golden glow, there was a figure that should have never been there. Xianxia. Feng Henkang's eyes seemed as though they had been stabbed by a million needles and shrunk to the smallest they had ever been in his entire life. The scorching radiance shone down from the skies, illuminating every corner of Phoenix City with a scarlet-golden glow. The source of the glow that was gradually descending like a purgatory of flames was currently consuming the heavens. It was so big that it nearly covered up a third of Phoenix City, and it was still continuously expanding. All the profound practitioners within Divine Phoenix Sect stopped what they were currently doing and looked towards the sky in a daze. They were so shocked that they were completely speechless. What is that? Not just in Phoenix City, but also in Divine Phoenix City, and even its borders, everyone walked out of their homes and training grounds and stared dumbfoundedly at the dazzling blood-colored sun that was slowly approaching Phoenix City. Feng Henkang's eyes and the entirety of his face had all been illuminated till they were scarlet gold. Accompanying the scarlet golden glow, the temperature was rising at a frightening rate. But what was even more alarming was how unbelievably overbearing the pressure was. The pressure was as though doomsday had arrived. It was many times more frightening than when Yuan Qi had previously used all his profound strength. In fact, he had never even felt such a frightening and overbearing pressure come from his father, Feng Tianwei, under such intense pressure. His heart palpitated as each and every single cell and nerve within his body trembled violently. "What's going on?" a Phoenix elder asked while trembling in shock. "Didn't grandfather leave to chase after Yuan Qi? How could Yuan Qi appear here? Where's grandfather?" Feng Ziming could not believe the scene before him. Less than 15 minutes ago, Yuan Qi had been forced to escape within 2 moves of Feng Tianwei. Feng Tianwei's attacks had all hit Yuan Qi cleanly. The fact that he did not die and still had the strength to escape could be considered a miracle already. At the very least, he should be suffering severe injuries, and there was no way he could escape from the clutches of Feng Tianwei. However, Yuan Qi had suddenly appeared here, and there was also no sign of Feng Tianwei. "Send a sound transmission to your grandfather immediately." Feng Henkang looked up in the sky, gritted his teeth, and said, "Yuan Qi has many tricks up his sleeve. He must have used some unique method to escape your grandfather's pursuit. Perhaps he had intentionally lured your grandfather away. Get your grandfather to swiftly return." The soul-shocking pressure had already caused Feng Henkang to feel an immense sense of danger. "Yes, royal father." Feng Ziming quickly took out a sound transmission jade with a phoenix flame imprint. "Yuan Qi, what are you going to do?" Feng Henkang howled in a low voice. Every member of Divine Phoenix Sect possessed the Phoenix bloodline, moreover. The Phoenix profound energy within them provided them strong resistance towards heat. But this time, the temperature of the air was already like scorching flames, and even someone as strong as Feng Henkang started to swelter. For the lower-level disciples whose profound strength was weaker, they could not help but use their profound energy in order to resist the heat. An increasing amount of water vapor started to rise up from every direction as the air in front of them visibly distorted. Following the expansion of the flaming hell, the surrounding temperature continued to rise. Yuan Qi stood about 1 kilometer in midair and stopped descending. His face was still slightly pale because this yellow spring ashes domain had used up all of his profound strength, and he had almost unleashed every bit of strength he had. It was several times stronger than the yellow spring ashes domain that exterminated the 700,000 Divine Phoenix army previously. Feng Henkang looked carefully. This place, which bore the will of a divine spirit but has since turned exceptionally dirty and vicious, will soon be eradicated forever. Yuan Qi laughed coldly. His voice sounded like the howl of a devil. In illusory demon realm, the illusory demon royal family relied on the first 4 realms of the Golden Crow's records of the burning world to make all the living beings within illusory demon realm serve under them. In profound sky continent, Divine Phoenix Sect relied on the first 4 realms of the world ode of the Phoenix to dominate the 7 nations. In fact, their short 5,000 years of progress was catching up to the sacred grounds, which had tens of thousands of years of history. Within illusory demon realm, the strongest profound art was without a doubt the Golden Crow's records of the burning world. Within profound sky continent, the world ode of the Phoenix was also widely recognized as the strongest profound art. As for Yuan Qi, not only did he possess a Golden Crow bloodline purer than the Little Demon Empress and all the past demon emperors, the current yellow spring ashes domain that he was using was also the power of the 7th realm of the Golden Crow's records of the burning world. In terms of profound strength, Yuan Qi definitely was not one of the best. However, the yellow spring ashes that he had released this time was without a doubt the highest level and strongest profound skill. That was indisputable. Not just Feng Henkang. Even if all the previous ancestors of Divine Phoenix Sect were present, their hearts would also tremble uncontrollably in front of such an immense level of pressure. Yuan Qi's words were not just empty threats. Once this domain had completely formed and came down to envelop them, it was enough to cover the entire Phoenix City and turn this sect, which had 5,000 years of history, into ashes. Feng Hengkong's entire body shuddered. The fear in his heart gave him the feeling that Yun Qi was not just making empty threats. Devil spawn. Even in facing death, you still speak so arrogantly. Phoenix Elder Feng Zhishui roared before muttering to Feng Hengkong. Sect Master, he is currently staying in midair and doesn't dare to come down. From the profound aura fluctuations on his body, he is clearly accumulating energy. Adding this to the fact that he was definitely severely injured by Grand Sect Master before, even though his presence is shocking at the moment, it's likely that he no longer has the strength to defend himself. It's the best time to attack him. Let me reveal his true colors. Feng Zhishui was extremely confident in his judgment. By the time he finished his statement, he had already jumped into the air and clawed at Yun Qi. The truth was indeed not too far from his deduction. Although Yun Qi was not heavily injured, at the current moment, all his strength was still being used on the Golden Crow domain, and he did not have one bit of strength to defend himself. Even so, how could a Phoenix Elder possibly get close to Golden Crow flames emitted at full strength? Feng Zhishui instantly soared several hundred of meters in the air as he shot straight at Yun Qi. However, when he was about 300 meters away from Yun Qi, Feng Shuizhi's expression drastically changed. His originally sprinting figure suddenly stopped at its fastest speed before plummeting to the ground. The moment he landed onto the ground, he laid on the ground and rolled several times as he let out continuous howls of pain. Elder Zhishui, all the present Phoenix Profound practitioners were in deep shock. Feng Hengkong and all the other elders swiftly rushed forward, and when they got closer, a pungent charred smell wafted to their nose. As Feng Zhishui rolled around, all of his Phoenix robe, hair and beard had turned into ashes and fell off. His exposed body was half red, and the other half was black as charcoal. The most eye-catching were his hands. Everything below his arms disappeared, and all that remained were 2 segments of charred bones. Sect Master, don't get close. Feng Zhishui stretched out his right arm that was missing a hand. His face violently contorted in pain as he swallowed his words before eventually losing his life. The faces of Feng Hengkong and the various Phoenix Elders had turned pale as a bone-piercing chill went down their spine. Feng Hengkong's body trembled slightly as he weakly took 2 steps back. As he concentrated his gaze, he gritted his teeth before flying into the air and rushing straight at Yun Qi. Sect Master! Feng Zhishui's miserable state was right in front of their eyes. All the Phoenix Elders, who were still frightened out of their wits, quickly flew up as they attempted to stop Feng Hengkong. However, Feng Hengkong was not as rash as Feng Zhishui. Immediately after getting into the air, he slowed down tremendously. His eyebrows tightly knitted together as he slowly but gradually approached Yun Qi with each step closer. The temperature would increase by a terrifying degree. When he was about 300 meters high, he already felt uncomfortable to the heat despite being protected by Phoenix Profound energy that was in the 10th level of the Tyrant Profound realm. As he neared another 300 or so meters, his chest began to suffocate, and he felt as though he was standing at the edge of a volcano. Feng Hengkong gritted his teeth as his body ferociously climbed another 30 meters. However, his body immediately felt as though it had been wrapped by a layer of burning metal, causing his face to contort in pain. At this point, he was still at least 400 meters away from Yun Qi, even though he was experiencing it for himself. Feng Hengkong still could not believe that just the temperature alone of the scarlet golden flames Yun Qi released prevented him from getting within 300 meters of him. Even his father, Feng Tianwei, could never do this. Such a temperature from more than 300 meters away. Just how frightening was that flame? Sect Master, don't get closer anymore. The expressions of all the elders that followed behind turned pale from shock. Experiencing it for themselves, they finally understood why Feng Zhishui would end up in such a state. As they looked at Yun Qi, their hearts madly trembled, and what they felt could no longer be simply described as fear anymore. Phoenix fire burning heaven. A Phoenix Elder carefully retreated a few steps before concentrating all the profound energy within him to release the strongest flames he could muster. A massive pillar of Phoenix flames, carrying along the cries of the Phoenix, shot straight into the sky towards Yun Qi. However, these flames had only managed to go on for 100 meters before it shattered and dispersed into tiny balls of fire that disappeared in the sky. Wah, what? That elder was completely stunned. Sect Master, hurry and retreat. They had only stayed for several breaths of time, yet they already felt as though their bodies were being grilled above the flames of purgatory. If they were already facing this with their strength, Any one of the guards or disciples would instantly combust in flames. Without waiting for Feng Hengkang's reply, two elders grabbed onto his arms and forcefully brought him down from the air. Only when they had landed back on the ground did their breathing become a bit smoother. After personally experiencing how frightening Yun Qi's flame domain was, Feng Hengkang's face was as pale as a sheet. The words Yun Qi had said just now became much clearer in his head. It was as though a devil had imprinted a seal in his heart, causing him to tremble in fear. Yun Qi, what exactly do you want? What do I want? Didn't I already say it clearly just now? Yun Qi sneered with a dark face as the golden crow domain in the sky continued to expand. It was now nearly big enough to cover half of Phoenix City. The moment this flame domain descends will also be very moment your Phoenix City forever disappears from the face of this earth. You dare! Feng Hengkang's eyes turned bloodshot and his tone completely changed. If you dare to harm one bit of my Phoenix City, we swear to eradicate every inch of your Blue Wind Nation. H-A-H-A-H-A-H-A-H-A? Yun Qi laughed hysterically. Feng Hengkang, you really don't know how to repent even when you're completely defeated. I killed your sons as easily as I killed chickens without even bothering to blink. Tell me, do you think I dare? As the Golden Crow domain continued to expand, not only did its scarlet gold glow cover Phoenix City, it even covered the entire Divine Phoenix City. The towering Black Moon headquarters, which soared into the clouds, was also dyed a crimson red. Zai Jai stood in front of his window and gazed towards Phoenix City. While doing so, his expression kept on changing, and every single change was incomparably dramatic. Hurry up and go underground. Fully activate the protective barrier. Zai Jai's sudden command caught the blue-clothed person beside him completely off guard, as the person responded in a rather dazed and soft voice. Activate the barrier. Not even once had the Black Moon headquarters activated their profound barrier in the past 4,000 years. The flame domain that appeared in the sky above Phoenix City. Zai Jai heavily sucked in a deep breath. It is definitely more than capable of destroying the entire Phoenix City. Its aftermath may even reach this place. But the Divine Phoenix Sect has more than 10 monarchs. How could they not defend against the flame domain of merely one Yun Qi? The blue-clothed person asked in a completely puzzled manner. Zai Jai's gaze turned extremely cold before he slowly continued. The strength of the flame domain that Yun Qi opened actually isn't too ridiculous at all, but the law of fire behind it is profound to the point of absurdity. Even with my high attainments in the profound way, I am still unable to grasp even a little bit of it. My spirit perception has not even come into contact with those flames, yet just coming into contact with the energy waves being released by those flames is enough to cause my soul to shake uncontrollably. Blue-clothed person. The monarchs of the Divine Phoenix Sect all have sufficient power to protect themselves in the face of this terrifying flame domain. However, in my opinion, even if all of them join hands and give it their all, the chance for them to completely cancel out this domain before it falls on Phoenix City is at most just 20%. And it is 80% likely that this attack will end in the destruction of Phoenix City. If the people inside the city do not evacuate immediately, everyone who is not a monarch will be completely incinerated, even if all the people within the city can escape with their lives before the domain falls on them. With the destruction of Phoenix City, the Divine Phoenix Sect's medicine gardens, crystals, wealth, and profound formations, the accumulation and foundation of thousands of years, will be destroyed in one fell swoop. Even though the entire Divine Phoenix Sect will survive and won't be thrown into chaos, they will need at least 1,000 years to recover their former glory. Zai Jai's words caused the blue-clothed man to be seized by shock. Yun Qi killing 2 monarchs at the Emperor Profound Realm had completely exceeded his comprehension. But right now, Yun Qi was actually about to destroy the entirety of Phoenix City, and not even all of the monarch of the Divine Phoenix Sect together were able to prevent it. If not for Zai Jai personally stating it, he would have completely been unable to believe it. Just what kind of fire is that? Could it be that it is actually stronger than the Phoenix Flames? The Phoenix Flames were the flames of a divine spirit, and it was publicly acknowledged as the strongest profound fire in this world. But given Zai Jai's words, it was clear that the flames that Yun Qi released were even more frightening than the Phoenix Flames. It is indeed a flame that is stronger than the Phoenix Flames, and it is also far more terrifying than the Phoenix Flames. Zai Jai let out a deep sigh, but after which, the look in his eyes underwent the most imperceptible of changes before he mumbled softly. Or perhaps it is just as the Sun-Moon Divine Hall described. Maybe this mysterious, profound fire that Xianxia is using is the one his master, Old Man Duotian, used to incinerate a monarch in the matter of seconds. A profound energy vibration came from the blue-clothed person's sound transmission jade. The blue-clothed person immediately snatched it up before speaking to Xianxia. Master, Feng Tianwei has already entered the boundary of the Divine Phoenix City at full speed, and he will arrive at Phoenix City in another 100 seconds. Even if he returns, there is nothing that he can do. Once he sees Xianxia's flame domain, he will immediately recognize that he doesn't have the ability to cancel out this flame domain, which contains such bizarre and profound laws of fire. It seems like this time, even though Feng Tianwei personally went to battle, he will have no choice but to admit defeat. The Divine Phoenix Sect can still afford to gamble when it comes to the lives of their princes, but the destruction of Phoenix City is definitely not something that they can afford to risk, Xianxia said while closing his eyes. What are you waiting for? Go, hurry up and activate the protective barrier. If the shockwave reaches our merchant guild, even if I personally intervene, I will not be able to guarantee that nothing will be lost. The blue-clothed person ran off as if his tail had been lit on fire. Xianxia opened both of his eyes and once more fixed his gaze on Phoenix City. His spirit perception could already detect the aura of Feng Tianwei, who was moving at the fastest speed possible. Strange, it has already reached this point, yet why hasn't their Phoenix god made an appearance yet? Xianxia faintly narrowed his eyes as he softly muttered to himself with a pensive expression. Destroy Phoenix City, just by yourself, Feng Ziming roared. My grandfather will arrive at any moment, and he will be able to extinguish that tiny bit of power with just a wave of his hand. His Highness is right, stated the third elder of the Divine Phoenix Sect with his entire face a bright red and a body drenched in sweat. However, he still forced himself to remain calm. Xianxia, I can tell from your current state that you are clearly an arrow which has reached the end of its flight and completely spent. Once Grand Sect Master returns, it will be your end. Grand Sect Master is a supreme monarch and will not allow you to behave so arrogantly anymore. Heh, Xianxia gave a mocking sneer. To think that a ridiculously stupid piece of trash who was misdirected several hundred kilometers away because of a simple trick that I played is actually the Grand Sect Master of your Divine Phoenix Sect. That you all are not ashamed of him, that I can understand. But to think that you would actually use him to bluster in front of me, this is simply far too funny, ha 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 ha. You dare to insult our Grand Sect Master? Xianxia's words caused the faces of all the Divine Phoenix Elders to go completely red as they boiled with fury. At this time, a frenzied aura could be felt barreling its way over from the east, causing all of the Divine Phoenix Sect members to crow with joy. It is the Grand Sect Master. Grand Sect Master has returned. Once the Divine Phoenix Sect members felt Feng Tianwei's aura, their shock completely turned into joy. Previously, they had all been extremely worried that Xianxia would send the scarlet gold sea of fire that floated in the sky hurtling down towards them before Feng Tianwei returned. But now that Feng Tianwei had returned, the heavy boulder which was weighing down on their hearts had disappeared. Just as the cheers began to ring out, a beam of fire shot through the air, and following that, a fire-red silhouette appeared in front of Feng Henkang and Feng Ziming. Grand Sect Master! All the Divine Phoenix Elders who were present excitedly surged forward as they all hurried to fall to their knees in greeting. Grandfather, you came back at just the right time. Feng Ziming strode forward as he respectfully greeted his grandfather. This Xianxia punk used a ruse to escape grandfather and come back here, then even arrogantly boasted that he would destroy our Phoenix City and spoke disrespectfully about grandfather. This devil spawn's sins, even dying 10,000 times would not expiate them. Grandfather, you definitely must not show him any mercy. Feng Tianwei raised his head to look at the sky, not giving even the slightest response. When all the Divine Phoenix Sect members quietly raised their heads to look at him, they were shocked to find that Feng Tianwei's face had become frighteningly grim. Not only were both his fists tightly clenched, they were even faintly trembling. Rivulets of sweat could be seen running down his fingers. But before the drops of sweat could leave his body, the sweat directly evaporated into steam. An extremely stifling and heavy aura radiated from Feng Tianwei's body, one which was so oppressive that Feng Henkang, the person standing nearest to him, found it hard to even breathe. And Feng Henkang, who had finally just been able to loosen a bit of his tension, found his nerves stretched taut once more. He spoke to Feng Tianwei in a low voice. "Royal Father." Feng Tianwei did not pay attention to anyone else as he directly stared at Yun Qi. His chest rose imperceptibly before he finally spoke, speaking slowly. I, Feng Tianwei, have boasted of my wisdom and martial prowess for my entire life, yet I actually fell for your ruse so easily. It looks like for these last few centuries or so, I've really lived a dog's life. Whether it was his words or his disposition, Feng Tianwei was nothing if not calm. Because as the grand sect master of the Divine Phoenix Sect, anyone else could descend into panic, but he alone had to remain strong. As to whether his heart was as calm as his expression, it was something that was known only by him. It seems as if the Divine Phoenix Grand Sect Master is someone with a lot of self-awareness. In the face of Feng Tianwei's self-deprecation, Yun Qi did not hesitate to twist the knife even further as he said, "In the end, you are still a Phoenix monarch whose might and fame shakes the heavens, but the speed that you possess is simply too disappointing. I had originally thought that I would only be able to complete half of my destruction domain by the time you returned. But alas, who would have thought that you would be so slow that I have already completed 80% of it? You used some kind of dimensional displacement," Feng Tianwei said coldly. "You purposely drew me 200 kilometers from this place before using that dimensional displacement ability to return here, and completing that destruction domain before I could return. It was a good trick indeed." "Ah, I wouldn't even call it a trick. It was merely something that I thought of on the fly." Yun Qi gave a sedate and cold chuckle. "This should have been the greatest and final gift that I was going to give your Divine Phoenix Sect. It is a pity that you actually dared to injure me, as it leaves me with no choice but to deliver this present in advance. If I wanted to kill you now, it would be as easy as swatting a fly." Feng Tianwei raised his arm, and flames suddenly burst into life in the center of his palm. "Ha ha ha, then go ahead and do it." Yun Qi let out a wild laugh. "However, I have utmost confidence that I will be able to send this destruction domain hurtling downwards before you are even able to touch me. At that time, my one life will be exchanged with the lives of all the disciples within your Divine Phoenix Sect and the destruction of Phoenix City. No matter how you look at it, it's simply too worth it." "You..." Feng Tianwei's arm trembled, and even though his expression remained calm, he gritted his teeth so hard that he came close to breaking them. Although the rest of the Divine Phoenix Sect were unable to completely understand just how terrifying the flame domain Yun Qi had created was, Feng Tianwei, even when he had been 50 kilometers away from it, could already feel his heart fill with fear and alarm. Now that he was just below the domain, he was even more shocked as he was now extremely clear on just how terrifying it was. If Yun Qi truly sent this flame domain smashing downwards, he could preserve his own life, but even if he used all his strength, he would not be able to cause the domain to dissipate, and so he would be unable to protect Phoenix City. And it was not only him. Even if all the monarchs within the sect came out of seclusion and joined together to try and stop this domain, they would not be able to do it either, even though he could scarcely believe it and did not want to admit it. The aura, might, and principles of fire encompassed within the fire domain was something that had clearly far surpassed the fourth stage of their Divine Phoenix Sect's profound art, which was also the highest level their phoenix flames could attain. "You, just who are you? And right now, just what kind of profound fire are you using?" Feng Tianwei strove with all his might to keep his cool. He knew extremely clearly that he would not receive a genuine reply to his questions, but in the hundreds of years that he had lived, this was the first time he truly wanted to know the answer to his question. Yun Qi was only just over the age of 20, with his profound strength being only at the third level of the Emperor Profound Realm. Yet he was able to kill 2 monarchs of his Divine Phoenix Sect, and his speed was not any less than his own. Just what kind of monster was he? And who exactly was capable of breeding such a monster? Just what kind of flame was he using? To think that it would cause the body and soul of a level 6 monarch who possessed the Phoenix fire to tremble with such fear. Do you still need to ask? Naturally, they are the flames that will punish your Divine Phoenix Sect and all of the people within it, Yun Qi said coldly. If you truly sent that destruction domain hurtling downwards the moment it engulfs my Phoenix City, it will also send shockwaves through most of the Divine Phoenix City as well. Hundreds of thousands, perhaps even 1 million, of innocent lives will be lost. Do you not fear the wrath of heaven? Feng Tianwei said as he silently gritted his teeth. His mind was filled with racing thoughts as he sought to find a chink in Yun Qi's armor. The wrath of heaven? Right now, I am the wrath of heaven that has been sent to administer your punishment. Yun Qi yelled in a dispassionate tone. From the moment I have arrived at this Divine Phoenix City, Everything that I have done to your Divine Phoenix Sect is due to your own folly, and something that all of you richly deserve. Today, even if the entire Divine Phoenix City is incinerated by this domain, the main culprit behind this event will still be your Divine Phoenix Sect. As Feng Tianwei and Yun Qi spoke, the aura within Phoenix City had grown extremely hot and oppressive. Moreover, their exchange had caused all those who were present to take notice of something. That even Feng Tianwei was unable to deal with the flame domain which was hanging in the sky. Feng Ziming took a huge gulp of air before moving forward to speak softly to Feng Tianwei. "Grandfather, don't waste your words on him. I will immediately go to Phoenix Fire Divine Realm and get the other." Feng Tianwei violently thrust out a hand as he made a move to obstruct him. This movement caused Feng Ziming and Feng Henkang's pupils to violently contract as the shock on their faces instantly grew by an immeasurable amount. "Royal Father, is that domain truly so terrifying?" Feng Henkang's voice was very soft, but it was still accompanied by heavy trembling. Feng Tianwei slowly nodded his head and said in an extremely grave voice, "If it truly does descend, then not only will all of you die, Phoenix City will also be destroyed as well. And even if all the monarchs within our sect join hands, we will only be able to watch it happen." Feng Henkang: How is this possible? How could Yun Qi? The already scorching air seemed like it would catch fire at any moment, but Feng Henkang could only feel his entire body go completely cold. He suddenly quivered before anxiously speaking. "This Yun Qi's personality is most extreme. It is as if he is a literal madman. There is nothing that he won't do. We need to immediately send out sound transmissions to get all of the people to evacuate Phoenix City at least." "No," Feng Tianwei shouted sternly. "If Phoenix City is destroyed, it will not merely be our foundation that will be razed with it. What's even more calamitous is the fact that the Phoenix God's passing will also be completely exposed. At that time, the fate of a Divine Phoenix Sect with no guardian divine spirit or foundation will be, can't you predict it?" Feng Henkang's entire body shook fiercely, and his face instantly became as pale as a sheet. As the ancestral Phoenix God of Divine Phoenix Sect, the Phoenix Divine Spirit very rarely made an appearance. But during events which concerned the life and threatened the existence of the Divine Phoenix Sect, it was definitely bound to show up, even though it was suspicious that the Phoenix Divine Spirit still had not made an appearance yet. In the end, it would just remain a suspicion, and no matter how much the onlookers doubted, their doubt would be easily negated by the fact that the figure of the Phoenix God had just made an appearance 3 years prior. But if Phoenix City was truly destroyed, and the Phoenix God still did not make an appearance, then the truth of the Phoenix God's passing would be completely exposed to the world. At that time, Divine Phoenix Sect would truly meet with the risk of being exterminated. Feng Tianwei raised a finger behind his back to tell Feng Henkang to remain silent before he raised his head to stare directly at Yun Qi and solemnly continued. "Yun Qi, the invasion of the Blue Wind Nation was indeed the fault of our Divine Phoenix Empire. Originally, we had felt that conquering the Blue Wind Nation would be no harder than lifting our hands. But we never expected someone like you to ever appear from Blue Wind Nation. Our sect has the protection of our ancestral Phoenix God, and even if your flame domain was 10 times stronger, it still wouldn't be able to touch even an inch of our Phoenix City. But my sect has sworn for generations that unless it is matter of life and death, we will definitely not borrow the power of our ancestral Phoenix God. So now that this matter has come to a head, my sect is willing to admit defeat." "Heh!" Yun Qi's brows sunk and a mocking grin hung on his face. However, he did not expose Feng Tianwei's blatant lie. And the only reason for that was naturally Feng Xue'er. If not for Feng Xue'er, he would have been more than eager to see Divine Phoenix Sect being completely clobbered into the ground by the 4 great sacred grounds who had long viewed them as a threat. "Yun Qi, if you truly wish to destroy our Phoenix City, you would have long ago sent that destructive domain hurtling downwards. You tricked me into leaving this place in order to be able to complete this destruction domain, yet you intentionally waited for me to return, so it is clear that you do not want to go too far. Even though you have killed many princes and elders from our Divine Phoenix Sect. But in the end, you did save the life of Xue'er 3 years ago. In the eyes of my sect, Xue'er's life is far more important than the lives of all the people that you have killed. So my sect also does not feel the need to take things too far with you as well." In any other power or family, Feng Tianwei's words would have caused discomfort and unrest, but in Divine Phoenix Sect, no one thought that it was inappropriate. Because in the eyes of the entire sect, The life of Feng Xue'er was indeed more valuable and important than all the disciples, princes, elders, and even the two grand elders who had died. She was much more important by far, and it was not the least bit exaggerated to say so. State your terms. Feng Tianwei's eyes were like those of a starving eagle, but his tone was cold and crisp, and there was no sign of panic in it. It was as if nothing had deviated from his plans. As long as they are not too unreasonable, in order to protect Phoenix City, our sect is willing to accept all the terms and let you leave with your life. My sect has been established for thousands of years, and in all this time, we have never made a single concession before. But if you fail to see the kindness that is being shown to you, make unreasonable demands of us and cross the bottom line of my divine sect, HMPH, then even though we will have to endure our ancestral Phoenix God's wrath, we will have no choice but to borrow its power. At that time, our Phoenix City will remain safe and sound. But not only will you die a miserable death, we will ensure that Blue Wind Nation forever disappears from the face of profound sky continent, and not a single root remains. The words of I, Feng Tianwei, are worth their weight in gold. Feng Tianwei's voice resounded throughout the entire Divine Phoenix City, and each of his words were ear-splitting and shocking. If it was someone else, they would truly be stunned into insensibility by Feng Tianwei's words. However, for Yuan Qi, who had known long ago that the Phoenix God had already passed on, the latter half of Feng Tianwei's words were not the least bit intimidating, and it almost caused him to burst out in laughter. In comparison to Feng Henkang's frame of mind and shrewdness, Feng Tianwei was naturally far superior. However, the precondition of a psychological warfare was that the opposing party couldn't know one's secrets. Otherwise, one would have lost before even starting. Although he didn't know, it was even more so the case for Feng Tianwei, as even within the Divine Phoenix Sect, only small number of people knew that the Phoenix God was dead. Conditions? Heh. As expected of the Grand Phoenix Sect Master, how sharp and straightforward you are. Truly so much better than your wastrel of a son who inherited the position of Sect Master. Previously, I did not immediately act and instead gave you multiple opportunities. Every time I appeared, the first thing I would always do was initiate negotiations with your Divine Phoenix Sect and clearly list my terms. What a shame, even when I gave you people face, you continued to throw it away. Yet now, you are the one seeking to negotiate with me. Yuan Qi squinted, his sarcastic gaze like a sharp blade as he looked straight at Feng Henkang. Feng Henkang, I'm really lamenting on the behalf of the Phoenix disciples, princes, elders, and grand elders for the injustices they suffered, as it was your foolishness which sent them to their deaths. You... Feng Henkang clenched his teeth as he almost spit out blood. As of this moment, he already could not help but acknowledge the bitter fact that he, the dignified Phoenix Sect Master, the Divine Phoenix Emperor, had suffered an utter and complete defeat before Yuan Qi. Starting from the first day, Yuan Qi had shown weakness as he knowingly proposed conditions that were impossible for the opposite party to agree to. Conditions which would be viewed as jokes. Then he had gradually revealed his own strength. Every time, he would reveal a little more, and then he would propose another condition that they were even more so unable to accept. Each time, he made them think that it was already the limit of his strength. He had indeed come to negotiate and propose terms every day. However, every time, he had purposely proposed ones that they could not accept. Now that the time had come where they couldn't reject the conditions that he proposed were ones that they were even more unable to accept. The purpose of his revenge was not merely to kill and or injure them, but to also cause them to tremble in fear and to feel humiliation and regret. Just as Yuan Qi had desired, all of these feelings had been ruthlessly imprinted upon Feng Henkang's soul. Although they had been deliberately led on by Yuan Qi, the loss of dignity, the collapse of Phoenix City, the deaths of the 4 princes, the 5 elders, and Feng Tianqing and Feng Tianyu. They had all happened because he refused to comply with the requests set by Yuan Qi time after time. Now, faced with the crisis of extermination of their clan, they were the ones that had to take the initiative to seek out negotiations. All the deaths from before had been in vain. Such hatred, remorse, and fear had made Feng Henkang's heart twitch with pain to the point where no one knew just how many times it nearly shattered. Feng Henkang knew that this was Yuan Qi's cruel retaliation towards him, and that Yuan Qi had completely succeeded. At least the present feeling of humiliation that Feng Henkang felt was 10 million times more painful than death. In front of Yuan Qi, he had suffered a crushing defeat. His profound strength was far weaker as well. as even Feng Tianwei's back had become completely drenched in sweat when he personally faced Yun Qi. It was clear that he, even though he was the Phoenix Sect master, simply didn't have the qualifications to go against Yun Qi. What conditions have Yun Qi previously set? Feng Tianwei turned to the side, asking Feng Henkong with a sinking tone. Feng Henkong pressed his palm against his chest and fully calmed his voice before he said, "He wants us to withdraw our troops by a set time, pay 30 billion purple profound coins as compensation, apologize to the Blue Wind Nation, and hang the imperial edict stating our apology on our city walls for at least 10 years. Furthermore," Feng Henkong clenched his teeth, "furthermore, he wants us to cede the entire Red Jade region to Blue Wind, and for Ximing to cripple his profound arts so that they can hold him as a hostage in Blue Wind Imperial City for a full 50 years. Feng Tianwei's brows were fiercely locked. To compensate, apologize, cede territory, and give away the crown prince as hostage, every condition along brought shame that had never before been seen in the history of the Divine Phoenix Nation. Every condition trampled upon the 5,000 years of dignity of his Divine Phoenix. Grandfather, although Ximing is not powerful, I still have the identity of the Divine Phoenix Crown Prince. Even if I were to die 10,000 times, I still would never accept this humiliation. My Divine Phoenix also cannot suffer this humiliation," Feng Ximing shouted with a trembling voice. Undoubtedly, he feared that under this kind of pressure, Feng Tianwei might actually accept Yun Qi's conditions. He was the Divine Phoenix Empire's crown prince, but if he were to cripple his profound arts and go to Blue Wind Imperial City, he would inevitably pass every second within the next 50 years in unimaginable humiliation. If he was still alive, and able to return to the Divine Phoenix Empire after 50 years, it would be impossible for his crippled self to still be the Divine Phoenix Crown Prince. When people saw him, they would only think of the history of humiliation that he carried on his back. Yun Qi, if these are the conditions you put forward, Feng Tianwei's eyebrows slanted into a V shape. Did you think there was a possibility that my Divine Phoenix Sect would accept these? No, that's not the case. The anger and coercion Feng Tianwei had been secretly storing was just about to be surface until he heard the denial Yun Qi gave while smiling, which left him stunned. Contrary to the chilling expression Feng Tianwei had, Yun Qi's expression was actually that of happiness. Those were only just yesterday's conditions. Your son should already clearly know. How could today's conditions possibly be the same as yesterday's? SSS? Feng Henkong's lip trembled. The nightmares he had experienced in the past 3 days hovered over his mind and soul. Each one had been more frightful than the one before, and the pain, resentment, rage, regret, and humiliation accumulated one after the other. Thinking back to the Yun Qi from the first day, he had seemed like the reincarnation of the benevolent Buddha from legends. "What do you mean?" Feng Tianwei's brow sunk even deeper. "Royal Father!" Feng Henkong opened his mouth, however, he was not able to utter a sound for a long time. Finally, he lifted his finger, gathered the memories of the past days into profound strength, and passed it to Feng Tianwei's soul. Suddenly, what Feng Henkong had experienced when facing Yun Qi in the past couple days was completely displayed within Feng Tianwei's mind. His face did not change, but yet a quick glance revealed his fierce shock. He was not shocked by Yun Qi's schemes. Rather, he was shocked by the plans and methods he used, which were more murderous than a devil and more venomous than a poisonous snake. Is he really only 22 years old? He, Grand Sect Master, need not worry. Although I, Yun Qi, am not a good man, when facing your Divine Phoenix Sect, I believe that I have already offered the greatest amount of kindness of my life. Yun Qi gave a light chuckle. To anyone in the Divine Phoenix Sect, his words all seemed like jokes. Only he himself knew that his words were true to the utmost extent. These opportunities have been wasted by your arrogance and stupidity. You have no one to blame but yourselves. However, the Grand Sect Master came personally and, moreover, conceded on his own initiative. I naturally must give him some face, as I am from the younger generation. Therefore, compared to yesterday, today I will only slightly modify the 3 conditions. After he read the memory fragment that Feng Henkong had passed over, Feng Tianwei understood that Yun Qi was more than just difficult to deal with. Right now, it could be said that he was negotiating with a real devil. He raised his heel slightly and with a calm and tranquil tone, "Say it then, those 3 conditions. First, the compensation amount will be changed to 50 billion purple profound coins. Deliver it to the Blue Wind Imperial family, not a single coin less. 50 billion. the face of the Phoenix elders who were unable to accept the 10 billion originally proposed by Xianxia twitched. Feng Ziming clenched his teeth. Xianxia, quit daydreaming already? Continue, Feng Tianwei said in a deep voice. As for the second, Xianxia's gaze fell on Feng Ziming, making his whole body tighten. Yesterday I mentioned that your Divine Phoenix Crown Prince must come to the Blue Wind Imperial family to be a guest. Who knew that the distinguished Crown Prince would unexpectedly be scared shitless, making it so that people pitied him just by looking at him. If he came to my Blue Wind Imperial City and became insane after being terrified, that would be too awful to see. Xianxia, you... Feng Ziming's face turned jet black. He hated that he couldn't use his mouth to bite Xianxia into pieces. Therefore, it would be better for this Divine Phoenix Crown Prince to not go to my Blue Wind Nation's land. However, there must be someone who will become a guest of my Blue Wind Imperial family. In front of everyone's startled eyes, Xianxia's gaze fell upon Feng Hengkong's body. Then the current Phoenix Sect master will do. Completely cripple Feng Hengkong's profound arts, have him return to the Blue Wind Imperial City with me, and kneel in front of my royal father Kang Wan's grave for 100 years. Not a single day less. At number percent, these words from Xianxia hit the minds of everyone in the Divine Phoenix Sect like thunder, causing all their faces to drastically change color, angering them to the point their chests were about crack. A sound that resembled the dislocating of bones could be heard from Feng Tianwei. Without waiting for their angry roar, Xianxia's voice continued to ring. Thirdly, within 200 years from today, your Divine Phoenix Empire must present at least 1 billion purple profound coins, 15,000 kilograms of purple crystals, 2,500,000 kilograms of profound iron and stones, and 5,000 sets of Phoenix fire weapons and armor as tributes to my Blue Wind Imperial family. And every 10 years, the quantity will increase by 20%. There can only be more, not less. Even if Feng Tianwei had several thousand years more of mentality and self-control, he would still wish that he could curse out loud at Xianxia while pointing at his face this instant. The faces of all the people in the Divine Phoenix Sect darkened, their expression uglier than if they had swallowed 5 tons of dog turd. Even if Feng Tianwei exhausted all his energy into constraining his anger, he was not able to keep a calm tone, and instead it trembled fiercely. Xianxia, I saw that you rescued Xue'er before and yielded to you on my own initiative. Do not go too far. He could not find any words to describe his own emotions at the moment. The words, go too far, were simply not enough to express his anger towards Xianxia. Go too far? Xianxia's eyebrows sank, his happy expression becoming incomparably cold. Because of you, the lives of 50 million citizens of my Blue Wind Nation were lost. Countless people are destitute and homeless. For them, to mention a mere 50 billion purple profound coins. 500 billion, even 5 trillion are not enough to return the lives of even one of their lives. 50 billion in compensation, how is that excessive in the slightest? The late Emperor of Blue Wind and the royal father of my wife Kang Yue and I, Kang Wan, had always revered your Divine Phoenix and had not even a shred of enmity or disrespect for it. Yet you set a death trap for him, he who was also the emperor of a nation. My royal father was cruelly murdered by you. Yet I have not said I wanted the life of Feng Hengkong, who should have died 1,000 deaths, and instead wanted him to just redeem his sins for just a short 100 years. How is that excessive in the slightest? Since the founding of Blue Wind 1,000 years ago, we have given your Divine Phoenix Empire generations of tribute for a total of 1,000 years, never having a missed year. Now that your Divine Phoenix trampled upon my Blue Wind, all I'm making you do is a trivial 200 years of tribute to my Blue Wind. Is that also too excessive? Feng Tianwei, you explain to me. Was it I who bullied your Divine Phoenix, or was it your Divine Phoenix who bullied my Blue Wind? The last few words fell, and Xianxia's voice caused sand to surge through all directions throughout the entire Phoenix City, making every soul tremble. Xianxia, there is no need to chew words with me. Feng Tianwei looked sternly, the veins on his forehead looking ready to burst. My Divine Phoenix can completely give the compensation of 50 billion purple profound coins to the Blue Wind Imperial family. We can even cede the Red Jade region to your Blue Wind. However, this is the bottom line that my Divine Phoenix can tolerate. As for the others, there is no need for you to waste your time talking rubbish with me either. Xianxia sneered without leaving any ground. You only need to say whether you accept or do not accept. You do not have the qualifications to bargain back and forth. Not even in the slightest. Every single one of Xianxia's words were like thunder, and not the slightest room was left. Grand Sect Master, regardless of my Divine Phoenix Empire or the Divine Phoenix Sect, none of them may be trampled and humiliated like this. The 4 Phoenix Elders shouted out. We have the protection of the Lord Phoenix God. If he really is prepared to destroy Phoenix City at this moment, Lord Phoenix God will definitely appear. Each of this devil spawn's words are just wishful thinking. Xianxia, you just wait to receive Lord Phoenix God's anger and sanction. Silence! Feng Tianwei waved suddenly, bringing about a blast of turbulent wind. To the knowledge of the Phoenix Elders and disciples, the Phoenix God still lived in this world. Therefore, even though they were angry, their hearts were assured because they believed in the existence of the ancestral Phoenix God. But the pressure that was put in the hearts of Feng Tianwei, Feng Hengkang, and Feng Ziming undoubtedly surpassed theirs by many times. Only they clearly knew that what they faced may be complete extinction. If it really reached that point, then Phoenix City would only be the starting point. The chain reaction from discovering that the Phoenix God was dead would be the scariest. Therefore, no matter what, they could not let Xianxia choose to sink the destruction domain. However, the conditions he put forward, how could they accept them? Good, very good. Feng Tianwei looked angrily at Xianxia, his whole body trembling slightly. At this moment, the only thing he could rely on was to use the ancestral Phoenix God to frighten Xianxia. What if I don't comply? Then that's great. There was no hesitation or disappointment. Instead, Xianxia's face had a look of excitement as if he couldn't wait to reply to Feng Tianwei. Then let this Phoenix City forever vanish from this world. Ha 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 ha. Feng Tianwei raised his head and laughed wildly. Indeed, I do not have the ability to offset your flame domain. But do you really think that with that much strength you can destroy this Phoenix City? I have said before, although my ancestral Phoenix God rarely comes to this mortal world, if you dare sink that domain and threaten this Phoenix City's safety, Lord Phoenix God will appear. With Lord Phoenix God's strength, only a moment would be necessary to destroy this destruction domain and completely eliminate you from this world. All right, then I will throw this destruction domain down and see what your Divine Phoenix Sect's so-called ancestral Phoenix God looks like. Even in Feng Tianwei's dream, he never would have imagined that Xianxia did not show the slightest hint of being intimidated or turn hesitant after he had shouted out, Ancestral Phoenix God. Instead, Xianxia's aura acutely shifted about, as his entire body burned with flames, striking a posture of immediately hurling the destruction domain down. Stop! Feng Hengkang roared, his voice hoarse and fierce. Xianxia's movements had startled the 3 of them almost to the extent of their souls leaving their bodies. RRRMB. The sounds of profound strength rolled down from the skies above like thunder. The scarlet gold domain covered the entire sky like a slow-moving sea of magma. The originally scorching hot temperature of the air surged again, and a Judgment Day-like aura covered all of Phoenix City. Under Feng Hengkang's panic-stricken roar, Xianxia's arm suddenly stopped. Despite the turmoil of the appearance of the destruction domain, he had at least not thrown it down. Xianxia overlooked them with a smile. What happened, Phoenix Sect Master? You have the protection of the great Phoenix God. I cannot possibly damage the Phoenix City if I throw this down. It would be suicide. Could it be that the Phoenix Sect Master was actually worried about my life? Xianxia's voice, eyes, and aura clearly radiated confidence. Hence, Feng Tianwei began to feel that Xianxia already knew the truth that the Phoenix God was dead. Otherwise, how could he be so calm and resolute when faced against the ancestral Phoenix God, which could even deter the 4 great sacred grounds? If it was really like this, then his final bargaining chip against Xianxia was useless. Xianxia, Feng Tianwei opened his eyes, his voice becoming low and drawn out. Must you do it to such an excessive extent? Excessive extent? Xianxia replied to him with an ice-cold sneer. If I had returned one day later, then this profound sky continent would never have a blue wind nation again. In this world, anyone can tell me these words. Only your Divine Phoenix Empire is not worthy, Feng Tianwei. RRMMB. The purgatory in the sky began to churn more and more violently. Hot and chaotic blasts continued to strike down from the air, especially around the edges of the domain. The scarlet gold boiling flames had already begun its slow downward descent. Xianxia lifted his head to take a glance. Then he narrowed his eyes and said with a sinking voice, "This is only the 2nd time in my life that I have used this destruction domain. Both times were given to your Divine Phoenix Sect. Feng Tianwei, you should have already felt that I currently do not have the strength to maintain its condition any longer." In roughly 60 breaths of time, it will completely break away from my control, and even if I wanted it to return, it would be impossible. In other words, I can grant you at most 60 breaths of time to choose either survival or destruction. The heat of the air had reached the extent where an average man would burn if he touched it. Yet Feng Tianwei, Feng Hengkang, and Feng Ziming felt as cold as ice. The Phoenix Elders had also begun to notice that something felt wrong, and all of their gazes focused upon Feng Tianwei, not daring to say a single word more. "Grandfather!" Feng Ziming watched Feng Tianwei's back, his face pale. He never could have imagined that Xianxia, who he had not paid any attention to back then, would in 3 short years return and control the life and death of his Divine Phoenix Sect. "Royal Father," Feng Hengkang powerlessly uttered, then slowly stretched his right palm, silently pressing it to the position of the profound vein's core position. His profound strength had just started to dissipate when a familiar aura touched heavily upon his soul, causing him to instantly lift his head, as though he had been electrocuted. In almost the same instant, Feng Tianwei, Feng Ziming, and everyone else's gaze gathered at the same place. At this time, Xianxia's facial expression suddenly froze as well. "Big brother Yun, is that you?" A young girl's dreamlike voice escaped from behind him, sounding like soft clouds, yet also reminiscent of the gentle weeping of the wind. Xianxia did not turn around. Ever since he had entered Divine Phoenix Empire, the person he had feared seeing the most had been Feng Xue'er. It wasn't that he didn't want to, but rather he couldn't, nor did he dare to. Furthermore, with every time he stepped in Phoenix City and every additional member of Divine Phoenix Sect he killed, the more unable he became to face Feng Xue'er. Not only was she a member of Divine Phoenix Sect, she was also the daughter of Feng Hengkang. Furthermore, she was of the apple of the eye of the entire Divine Phoenix Empire. At the same time, she also existed in the softest spot within his heart. During his current trip to Divine Phoenix Empire, she had been the biggest obstacle in his heart. "Xue'er," Xianxia muttered softly. His heart, which had not fluttered or felt fear in the face of the Divine Phoenix Sect, was now an utter mess. The snow garments that Feng Xue'er wore fluttered due to the waves created by the scorching heat, as her snow-white hands intensely covered her mouth. Her absolute beauty, which could cause even the fairies in heaven to pale in comparison, was now being completely stifled by her gushing tears. Xianxia's utter was as soft as the blowing wind, as he failed to suppress his emotions any longer. However, this had caused all of the pent-up emotions within Feng Xue'er to simultaneously erupt, as she sobbed loudly and rushed towards Xianxia, her tears continuing to flow like the shining stars within the night sky. At this moment, the flaming purgatory in the skies, the abnormalities within Phoenix City, and the looming threat that shadowed over the entire city had all been forgotten by her. Within her eyes, which were flooded with tears, everything vanished except for the figure of Xianxia. "Princess Snow, Xue'er, don't get near him." Feng Xue'er's arrival had taken everyone by surprise. However, her incomprehensible actions caused them to feel even more shock and confusion, which made them turn pale in horror. Below, at least several thousand shocked cries simultaneously erupted, but they were unable to even slightly stop Feng Xue'er's movements. As her snow garments fluttered, she rushed towards Xianxia like a firefly approaching light and hugged him tightly from behind, tightly pressing her crying face into Xianxia's shoulders. She closed her eyes as she immersed herself in the scent and aura that only Xianxia possessed and dreamily muttered, "Big bro Yun, am I really not dreaming, big bro Yun?" Xianxia's entire body tightened. The fiendish aura that had been pressing down upon the entire Divine Phoenix City disappeared as the cry rang out. It had burst uncontrollably like a bubble. Even his anger, resent, hatred, and desire for revenge had been wrapped up by this feeling of warmth and softness. Princess Snow, what is going on? Just what had happened?" Everyone within Divine Phoenix Sect was shocked. Stunned, they raised their heads and blankly gazed at the image of Xianxia and Feng Xue'er tightly hugging each other. Their mouths were completely agape, and their eyes were opened so wide that it seemed as if their eyeballs were about to pop out. Feng Xue'er. She was the apple of the eye of Divine Phoenix Sect, the sacred treasure and only princess bestowed upon Divine Phoenix Empire. Moreover, she was the sole remaining true successor of the Divine Phoenix Spirit and Divine Phoenix Sect's second Phoenix God. Her talent, status, elegance, bloodline, and beauty were all unparalleled beneath the heavens. Such a character was Princess Snow, a fairy-tale-like existence within Divine Phoenix Empire who had received the utmost care and protection from the entire sect. Before she turned 13, she had been personally guarded by the ancestral phoenix god itself. It had been difficult even for Feng Henkang to meet her. After she turned 13, even the precious princes and elders still could not get close to her. However, right now, that Princess Snow, who was like the world to them, was tightly embracing a man from outside of their sect. Furthermore, she had taken the initiative to hug him, and had even cried a river because of him. "Xue'er, get away from him now!" Feng Ziming's eyes went bloodshot as his chest began to heave so much that it seemed like it was about to explode. Feng Xue'er's sudden return had not come as much of a surprise to him. After all, such a large commotion was definitely sufficient to reach Phoenix Perching Valley. However, never in his wildest dreams had he thought that the first thing she would do upon returning would be to embrace Xianxia. Feng Ziming felt as if every part of his body was about to explode. A sense of undescribable rage, as well as jealousy, had seemingly overtaken his brain. Not even when Xianxia had previously forced him into a perilous situation had his hatred towards Xianxia been so extreme, because even he, the Divine Phoenix Crown Prince and Xue'er's oldest brother, had not managed to touch so much as her pinky before. As Feng Ziming's extreme rage took over, he let out a guttural, savage growl, and then he suddenly rose into the air, roaring as he charged forward. Feng Tianwei's gaze sunk as he suddenly waved his arm downwards, and a strong, profound energy caused Feng Ziming to heavily crash into the ground. "Do you really want to die so badly? Ming'er, don't be an embarrassment," growled Feng Henkang as he glared at Feng Ziming, who was climbing up from the ground with a contorted face. However, his fists were also tightly clenched, and his face painfully contorted as well. It did not pale in comparison to Feng Ziming. When Feng Xue'er woke up, the tears she shed for Xianxia had caused Feng Henkang's emotions to be thrown into confusion. Thus, when he suddenly found out that Xianxia had not died, his killing intent had tremendously surged in an instant. Today, the matter he was worried and most afraid of had finally happened. Furthermore, it was worse and more shocking than what he had expected. Just what the heck is going on? Feng Tianwei's face was frighteningly dark. As someone who had lived hundreds of years and had once been the emperor of the nation and the sect master of the sect, how would he not realize that? Feng Xue'er's current actions towards Xianxia were far beyond just simply repaying his kindness. He could simply not believe that she would shed tears for a man and take initiative to hug a man herself. She was Xue'er, the future god of Divine Phoenix Sect. Feng Henkang's twisted fingers tightly clawed at his head as he painfully replied, "This was the reason why I had to kill Xianxia. Xue'er must have been bewitched by him. Kill him. Grandpa, you must kill that bastard Xianxia. Kill him." Feng Ziming reached out and grabbed the corners of Feng Tianwei's clothes. Both the sound of his voice and his expression were as if he had been stabbed thousands of times. Feng Tianwei's eyebrows strongly twitched as he deeply exhaled. Looking up into the sky, his eyebrows sank slightly and he muttered, "Xue'er's aura, why is there such a big change?" Within this world, there was not a single person that could bear seeing Feng Xue'er shed tears. As she sobbed, her tears constantly dripped onto Xianxia's shoulders, dampening his outer garment as they seeped through and landed on his skin, deeply touching the depths of his heart. After being frozen for a long time, Xianxia finally decided to turn around. Stretching out his hand, he lifted Feng Xue'er's sobbing face and gently wiped her falling tears. The Feng Xue'er who was currently right by him looked exactly the same as she had 3 years ago. Her appearance had not changed a single bit, and her radiant snow beauty was still as dreamy as before. "Xue'er, have you and Chan'er been well the past 3 years?" Tears muddled Feng Xue'er's eyes as she blankly stared at Xianxia. She wanted to laugh heartily, but at the same, she also wanted to tightly hug him and cry. "As long as I can see Big Bro Yun, I'll be fine forever. I had thought that I would never get to see you again. I have still yet to fulfill my promise with Xue'er. Why wouldn't you be unable to see me again? These 3 years, I was just taken on a sightseeing journey by the great primordial arc." Xianxia gently smiled. Feng Xue'er smiled, tears still in her eyes. Her smile seemed to instantly cause all the things in the world lose their glow. The flaming purgatory continued to hang in the sky over Phoenix City, as the hearts of all the members of Divine Phoenix Clan continued to tighten below. However, the melancholic feelings they felt from Xianxia and Feng Xue'er's heated passion in midair had completely overshadowed all of the heat. All of the Phoenix elders and disciples were dumbfounded. As for Feng Ziming, he grit his teeth so tightly that he bled as he tried his best to prevent himself from breaking down completely. However, he could not help but let out a beast-like roar as he wildly shouted, "Xianxia, Let go of my royal sister. Xue'er, get away from him. Hurry up and get away from him. He'll kill you. Feng Ziming looked as though he had completely lost all sanity. Feng Ziming's roar also seemed to have caused the dazed Divine Phoenix Profound practitioners to snap back to reality as Feng Tianwei also sternly shouted, Xue'er, hurry up and get away from that person. Come to Grandpa's side. He's too dangerous. Feng Xue'er's snowy hands gently wiped away the trails of tears on her face as she revealed a smile which came from the depths of her heart and said, Grandpa, Crown Prince brother, you all don't have to worry. Big Bro Yun will never harm Xue'er. No, Xue'er, you don't understand. Feng Henkang raised both his arms and shouted in a trembling voice. He's not the Yun Qi from 3 years ago. He's now a lunatic, a scary demon. Do you know, in just the past few days, he's killed your 14th brother, your 13th brother, as well as your 9th and 11th brother. They were all killed by Yun Qi, and their deaths were unbelievably tragic as not even their corpse was left behind. Also, the Great Elder and Second Elder, even Tianqi and Tianyu, 2 of our Grand Elders, were all killed by him. Bellowed Feng Ziming with all his might as he followed after Feng Henkang's words. Even Royal Father was severely injured by him. He even wanted to destroy our entire Phoenix City. That flame domain in the sky is what he was going to use to destroy our Phoenix City. Xue'er, hurry up and get away from him. He is truly a devil and the mortal enemy of our entire sect. Feng Xue'er had never seen Feng Henkang and Feng Ziming scream so intensely before. With her unparalleled intelligence, how could she have failed to notice what had happened here? However, all of this had been pushed out of her mind with the appearance of Yun Qi. Now, as she heard the cries and screams of her royal father and royal brother, her eyes became clouded as she shook her head in refusal. It can't be. Big Bro Yun wouldn't have done such things. Yun Qi. Xue'er, could it be that you cannot see what he's currently doing? Feng Tianwei's face turned green. When he faced the threat that Yun Qi brought before, there was no change in his expression. However, after Feng Xue'er's arrival, each scene that he saw caused his entire body to shiver. He stretched out his finger and pointed at Yun Qi. If you don't believe, you can ask him for yourself. They did not lie to you. Immediately after Feng Tianwei finished speaking, Yun Qi's calm voice had already resounded. In the past few days, I've already killed 4 of your royal brothers, many of your clan members, and the flame domain in the sky was also meant to destroy Phoenix City. No, I still won't believe it. Feng Xue'er continued to shake her head as she suddenly turned to Feng Henkang. Royal Father, what happened? Have you all done something that harmed Big Brother Yun? Feng Xue'er's words caused Feng Henkang's chest to turn heavy as he replied in a panicked and pained voice. Xue'er, what kind of psychedelic soup did he feed you? He killed your brothers and even wants to destroy our entire sect. He has long since become mortal enemies with our sect. He has even admitted it himself. Why do you insist on defending him? Would you rather believe someone who has killed your brothers and wants to destroy your entire sect over your royal father? Hearing Yun Qi's own confession, Feng Xue'er did not have the shock that she was supposed to have, nor did she move away from Yun Qi. Her first reaction was instead to question her own birth father. This was undoubtedly a huge blow to Feng Henkang. To everyone within Divine Phoenix Sect, it was a huge blow that they could not believe or comprehend. Royal Father is Xue'er's closest person. Xue'er would definitely believe every single word Royal Father says. She then shook her head in a hurt manner. However, Xue'er similarly believes that Big Brother Yun is definitely not the lunatic and devil that Royal Father speaks of. Has Royal Father forgotten that back then? It was Big Brother Yun who saved Xue'er's life and even sacrificed himself, and stayed within the primordial arc, such a kind Big Brother Yun, who loved and cherished Xue'er so deeply definitely wouldn't kill Xue'er's brothers and clan members without reason. Furthermore, Big Brother Yun was the same as Xue'er. Not only had he inherited the Phoenix God's bloodline, he had also inherited the Phoenix God's divine spirit. Someone with an evil soul would never be able to receive the inheritance of the Phoenix soul. For Big Brother Yun to do something like that, he must have a very strong reason. Otherwise, Big Brother Yun would definitely never do such a thing. Feng Henkang opened his mouth but could not speak for a very long time. The reason Yun Qi acted this way towards the Divine Phoenix Sect was something that he knew far clearer than anyone else. Everyone present from Divine Phoenix Sect, and even all the citizens of Divine Phoenix City, also knew it fully well. Perhaps within the entire Divine Phoenix Nation, Feng Xue'er was the only person who still did not know. Yun Qi's confession did not shock Feng Xue'er. However, the sudden silence had caused her emotions to go into turmoil. Her two hands tightly gripped onto Yun Qi's arm, and her eyes glinted with the helpless shine of a star. Big Brother Yun. Xue'er would choose to believe that the entire world is lying than believe that you're an evil person. I know that there must be some reason behind this. Big Brother Yun, just what had happened. Can you tell Xue'er? Yun Qi looked at Feng Xue'er. When he faced her, his expression seemed to soften subconsciously without control. He let out a deep sigh as he gently said, "In the end, I can never defeat my own heart." Muttering to himself, Yun Qi lifted his finger and tapped Feng Xue'er's forehead. This action of his also caused Feng Henkang to become shocked. As he lost his composure and shouted, "Yun Qi, what are you doing?" When Yun Qi's finger landed in the middle of Feng Xue'er's forehead, a large portion of his memories from the moment he arrived in profound Sky Continent was directly transmitted into Feng Xue'er's mind. Yun Qi pulled back his hand, and Feng Xue'er was already standing there with a dumbfounded expression. All the scenes that Yun Qi saw, as well as all the things that Yun Qi heard upon his return, entered her brain. The endless emptiness and loneliness, the ponds that had been burnt dry, the Divine Phoenix army that marched like flooding waters towards Blue Wind Imperial City, the rivers that flowed with fresh blood, and the seemingly endless amount of corpses. She had also felt all of Yun Qi's emotions at that time. His shock, fear, anger, hatred, and desire for revenge. Feng Xue'er's petite figure started to tremble, her eyes lost its focus, and she also seemed to lose all her strength as tears rolled down her cheeks. It was as though she had lost her soul. The moment Yun Qi's finger touched Feng Xue'er's forehead, Feng Henkang's heart was extremely unsettled. As he looked at Xue'er's reaction now, his heart began to feel fear. "Xue'er, what's wrong? Why did you do that? Why, why? Even before Feng Henkang could finish speaking, Feng Xue'er's voice pierced through his heart like needles. Her voice was exceptionally miserable, and there was even an unprecedented and uncontrollable emotion. Her face, that was usually all smiles, was currently filled with streaks of tears. However, the tears were different from the excited and surprised tears when she saw Yun Qi. Each bead of her current tears were filled with heart-wrenching pain and suffering. "Xue'er, don't be angry and upset. Royal Father has his reasons. All that he has done is for our Divine Phoenix Empire and our entire clan," Feng Ziming hurriedly explained. "Why did you do such a thing? Why? 5 consecutive why, each of them bearing a soul-ripping pain. She firmly believed that there must have been a reason why Yun Qi attacked Divine Phoenix Sect, but she had never expected that the actual reason would actually be so cruel. In addition, she could not believe that her closest, most respected, and most relied on father would carry out such actions. On one side, it was her father, and on the other, it was her big brother Yun. Since she was young, she has always existed in a fairy tale-like environment, and she had never experienced such a harsh reality in her life. "Xue'er, Big Brother Yun used his life to save my life. Why did you do such things?" Feng Xue'er continued shouting while crying. "You previously promised me that you'll treat Blue Wind Nation kindly. Treat and repay everyone related to Big Brother Yun. But why is the truth like this? Why did you kill so many citizens of Blue Wind Nation? Why did you kill Big Brother Yun's royal father? Why? Feng Xue'er's words became more and more sorrowful. Her trembling voice and the associated with it caused everyone's hearts to clench tightly, making it hard for them to breathe. Feng Henkang's entire body trembled. His heart was aching as though it had been stabbed by millions of blades. When he was finally able to lift his head, he did not dare to meet Feng Xue'er's gaze. Just as he was about to speak, he suddenly saw, by the side of Feng Xue'er's lips, a streak of blood had trickled down, and it appeared exceptionally eye-catching and shocking on her jade-like face. Feng Henkang lost all his composure. "Xue'er, what's wrong?" Feng Tianwei, Feng Ziming, as well as Yun Qi also spotted the streak of blood on Feng Xue'er's mouth at that same time. All of them were deeply shocked. Yun Qi frantically grabbed onto Feng Xue'er's waist and anxiously said, "Xue'er!" The moment he touched Feng Xue'er's body, he could sense that the aura inside her body had become chaotic, and her breathing was also a mess. Numerous profound waves were attacking her heart veins in the chaos. Xue'er, in his shock, Feng Henkang could not care about anything else and shot into the sky. At the same time, the space seemed to have suddenly tremble abnormally, and numerous accumulated roars reverberate from the air and the surroundings. The originally highly pressured air started to twirl in chaos, and a large number of weaker Phoenix disciples were knocked onto the ground. "Don't get near!" Feng Tianwei quickly took action and grabbed Feng Henkang down from midair. As he looked into the sky, all the veins on his bottom seemed to bulge. Shit! Feng Ziming revealed a frightened expression. Grandfather, what should we do now? The destruction domain in the air was trembling. The bordering areas were quickly falling. Obviously, the entire domain had lost control of its perimeter. If it fell, it would signify the start of the extermination of Divine Phoenix Sect. Big Brother Yun, for the current Feng Xue'er, there was no place other than Yun Qi's arm that provided her with more warmth and assurance. However, her panic-stricken heart made her unable to look at Yun Qi directly. She rested on Yun Qi's shoulder, closed her eyes, and softly said, "Can you let go of my royal father and the rest just this once? Please." Xue'er knows that she does not have the face to request this from Big Brother Yun, but they are still my royal father and clan members, and the place that I'll need to protect in the future. Xue'er assures Big Brother Yun, "I will definitely personally repay Big Brother Yun as well as Blue Wind Nation. All right. All right," Yun Qi replied nearly without a moment of hesitation. Feng Xue'er looked up. The beads of tears shone the most beautifully in her eyes. Yun Qi let go of Feng Xue'er and raised both his hands. His already lacking profound energy had been pushed to its limits following his control over the Golden Crow's records of the burning world. In the air, the expansion of yellow spring ashes continued, but it was gradually being contained in its center. Same situation, same conditions. If it were anyone else, even if that person held the same Golden Crow bloodline and profound arts as Yun Qi, he would definitely not be able to use his remaining profound energy to completely support and withdraw the massive destruction domain. However, Yun Qi, who possessed Evil God's fire seed, had unparalleled control over fire. With his control, the activation of the destruction domain was slowly receding, and the world-destroying frightening pressure was being reduced at a swift pace. The temperature of the surroundings was also being greatly reduced at the same time. The Divine Phoenix profound practitioners, whose heart had originally sunk into despair, now let out a long sigh of relief. Undoubtedly, when the domain had been retracted, there was no way Yun Qi could release it for a second time. At the same time, when he used this domain, he had already spent all his energy and was no longer a threat now. This meant that the dangers that Divine Phoenix Sect experienced today was completely gone. At the same time, this was also the prime opportunity to kill Yun Qi, because the current Yun Qi did not even possess the strength to run. The flame domain shrunk more and more, and the temperature of the air also fell more and more quickly. Unknowingly, the wind that was blowing due to the ripples in the air made them feel a little cold. It was then that everyone realized that their bodies had long since been drenched in sweat, from head to toe, and every part of their clothes were equally drenched. Feng Tianwei continued looking at the sky without moving as he let out a huge sigh of relief. He had never felt as much relief in his entire life before, because for the Divine Phoenix Sect, this was really akin to escaping through the skin of the teeth. Following the flame domain receding to within 300 meters, Feng Tianwei finally shifted his gaze onto Yun Qi, and an eerie killing intent flashed in his eyes. "Grandfather!" Feng Ziming's suppressed voice rang from being Feng Tianwei. "You don't have to speak." Feng Tianwei snorted coldly. His arm waved out strongly, and a flaming profound light shot out from the tip of his fingers. Its sharp ripped apart the air and shot straight at Yun Qi, who was still retracting the flame domain. He firmly believed that Yun Qi, who was in this current state, could never avoid his attack, even more so when he was using all his powers to completely control that domain. This profound light was sufficient to separate Yun Qi's brain from his body. Facing the pardon Feng Xue'er exchanged using her tears, Feng Tianwei's actions were considered extremely shameless and despicable, especially since he was the Phoenix Grand Sect Master, the exceptionally strong level 6 Monarch. He lost all his dignity and pride. However, everyone who witnessed this, except for Feng Xue'er, did not feel shocked, nor did anyone feel that it was inappropriate. This, of course, included Yun Qi. The blood debt he owed after bringing chaos to the Divine Phoenix Sect, his incomparably terrifying strength, ruthless and venomous personality, and his evident irregular feelings for Feng Xue'er. Every single one of these points was enough to spur Divine Phoenix Sect to kill him, regardless of the costs. And this was the best opportunity to kill Yun Qi. Even if they were to be labeled by the entire world as despicable and shameless, they definitely could not allow Yun Qi, who had retracted his domain, to leave here alive. Even Feng Tianwei himself was the first person to take action. This profound light that originated from Feng Tianwei was swift and ferocious. Just the sound of the shattering space transmitted to every corner of Divine Phoenix City. However, even before everyone managed to hear the sound of the shattering space, the fatal profound light had already reached Xianxia and stabbed straight at his vitals. As for Xianxia, he was still using his full strength to retract the Golden Crow domain and did not react even slightly. Or perhaps, in his current condition, Xianxia was no longer able to react to this swift and suddenly profound light attack. Xianxia, die! Feng Ziming stared intensely at the air as his eyes revealed a hideously ecstatic look. Boom! A deafening exploding noise rang in the sky, but it was not the sound of the profound light hitting Xianxia. Right when Feng Tianwei's flaming profound light was within 15 meters of Xianxia, another eye-catching flaming light suddenly appeared and knocked against the flaming profound light. Instantly, the course the flaming profound light was flying largely changed. The profound light that was originally aiming straight at Xianxia had hit the space behind him and disappeared into the sky. Xianxia had not been harmed in the slightest. Only the back of his clothes tore apart due to the violent ripples of air. Feng Tianwei's face instantly darkened. Feng Ziming's expression that had distorted in ecstasy was also stuck plastered on his face. Beside Xianxia, Feng Xue'er had moved from Xianxia's side to his front, and her back stuck closely onto Xianxia's chest. Her snow hands stretched out, and a ball of scarlet flames ignited on her palm before this. The flames that Feng Xue'er ignited had always been warm and gentle. But now, the mediocre-sized flame was shaking exceptionally vigorously. The streaks of tears of Feng Xue'er had not dried up. She wore an expression of pain, heartache, disbelief, and even a tinge of despair. Vicious, shameless, evil, despicable in her entire life. These were words that she had only used in the primordial profound arc on Yi Xinghen and Feng Feiyan. These two people were the first two people that she had ever had the emotion of hatred in her entire life. However, this time, it was brought to her by her loved ones. Why, she muttered, uncertain whether she was questioning her own loved ones or whether she was questioning the world. Grandfather, why did you do this? Feng Tianwei remained speechless as his heart was in a deep shock. Although the fire profound light was a sudden action, it had not been rushed. He had patiently accumulated energy for countless breaths of time. Therefore, that profound energy was Feng Tianwei's unrestrained full strength. He strongly believed that even if it were not an exhausted Xianxia, but an Xianxia at full strength, there was no way he could avoid it, and he would definitely die upon being hit. With Feng Xue'er innocence, she would not have expected that Xianxia would be suddenly attacked. Therefore, she must have reacted the instant after the attack went out, before it managed to hit Xianxia, an action made with such haste. If she were able to use 30% of her powers, it would have already been the limit. Yet she managed to deflect the fire profound light that he had sent at full strength. Xue'er, you're still young, you definitely won't be able to understand. Feng Henkang replied in pain. However, doing this is really for the sake of our entire clan. When you grow up and understand the laws of the world, you'll be able to understand. I indeed do not understand, and will never be able to understand. Feng Xue'er's snow-white face was filled with sadness. The phoenix flame in her hand did not extinguish as her other hand held onto Xianxia's arm tightly. She used her entire body and flame to protect him. I only know you have murdered countless Blue Wind citizens. I only see that Big Brother Yun chose to forgive. Yet you all want to kill him, and you use such despicable means. Royal Father, Grandfather, you aren't supposed to be such people. Upon saying her last sentence, the tears that she had fought so hard to resist fell once again. This had also caused Feng Henkang as well as the other Divine Phoenix Sect members' hearts to wince. No need to speak much more, Feng Henkang coldly said. Xue'er won't be able to grow up in an instant, and Xianxia must die today no matter what. Especially since we have already acted this way against him. With his cruel personality, if he does get to leave, he'll definitely take revenge in the future. Feng Henkang's words were something that everyone knew clearly. He chose to retract his domain when he had full advantage, allowing Divine Phoenix Sect to escape from the verge of extinction. However, they had acted viciously after he had pardoned them. No matter how magnanimous a person was, he would undoubtedly bear extreme hatred, needless to say Xianxia. If he did not die, his revenge in the future was something that made everyone shudder simply by thinking about it. Feng Henkang gritted his teeth as his crushed heart held a slight hesitation. He chose not to look Feng Xue'er in the eye again and coldly ordered, "All elders listen up. Seal off all of Xianxia's escape routes. Kill him at all cost." Feng Xue'er. Upon receiving Feng Hengkang's orders, all the elders rose into the air and formed a large circle which trapped Yun Qi in the center. However, Feng Xue'er stood firmly in front of Yun Qi, their bodies stuck closely together. All the elders looked on, but none of them dared to act rashly. Xue'er, come to Royal Father's side. Feng Hengkang slowly rose into midair and stretched his hand out towards Xue'er. Even if you were to blame me, hate me, it's fine. We definitely must kill Yun Qi today. When you get older, you'll understand Royal Father's pains. Feng Xue'er did not shake her head, but also did not move away from Yun Qi. Even her tears had stopped falling. Surrounding her, all the familiar faces that usually gave her warmth and kindness now became exceptionally frightening. All the usually gentle and caring faces and gazes were now unusually foreign and disgusting. She finally started to understand the meaning of the words Yun Qi told her 3 years ago in Phoenix Perching Valley. Big brother Yun, I want to grow up more quickly. When I'm 20, I'll be able to leave Divine Phoenix Nation and travel anywhere I want. Xue'er, I'd rather you never grow up. Ah, why? Because as you get older, you will begin to understand more. However, as you understand more, you will lose even more, and these things that you lose can never be recovered. Although you'll be able to expand your horizon, the things you'll see will not be the good of the world, but instead it's darkness and ugliness. Especially since you're the Divine Phoenix Princess, you'll be forced to shoulder the future of Divine Phoenix Sect. Royal Father, can you give Xue'er a reason? Feng Xue'er's voice sounded rather uncertain. Xue'er, he killed 4 of your royal brothers and so many of our clansmen. Is this not reason enough? Feng Hengkang shouted agitatedly. Feng Xue'er slowly shook her head and replied softly, there are many things that I do not comprehend, but regarding this matter, I understand completely. The person that killed them was not Big Brother Yun, but you, Royal Father. It was precisely because Royal Father issued orders to invade Blue Wind Nation, trampled over the peace of the citizens of Blue Wind Nation, dyed their rivers with blood, causing even the death of Big Brother Yun's Royal Father, which made Big Brother Yun come to take revenge and stop the fighting. This was the reason why they'd die. Royal Father, do you really not understand that you're the reason behind all these? These are all retribution for the mistakes that you have committed. They did not die because of Big Brother Yun. They died because of you, Royal Father. Feng Hengkang's body shuddered as his face turned completely pale. Similar voices had attacked his heart more than once in recent times. It had nearly turned into a nightmare that he could not escape from. For Feng Xue'er to say such words, it was simply more heartbreaking than a nightmare. He hissed, Xue'er, you don't understand, you really don't. The reason why Royal Father did all of this was for the future of our Divine Phoenix Sect. It concerns the life and death of our entire clan. For the sake of our own survival, you can willfully trample and destroy other nations and their citizens. Feng Xue'er shouted. Xue'er, can't you be obedient? Feng Ziming uttered with a pleading look. The strong feasts on the weak. This is the most basic law of the world. The progression of profound sky continent, the rise and prosperity of empires were all brought about by battles. But is what we did actual battles? Feng Xue'er angrily cut off Feng Ziming's words, her gaze and voice trembling. The prerequisite of battles is to ensure the safety of innocent civilians. This is something even an infant would know. The creation and prosperity of an empire's most basic and fundamental rule is stability and winning the hearts of people. However, what did the Divine Phoenix Sect do in Blue Wind? Slaughter innocent lives, burn down cities, destroy land. This is simply massacre, an act devoid of any human nature. Feng Hengkang's lips trembled as he was rendered speechless. Feng Xue'er placed her hand on her heart. The pain she felt there was simply heart-wrenching. I, Feng Xue'er, was born in Divine Phoenix City and received the grace of Lord Phoenix God upon birth. Received the care of grandfather, Royal Father, and the entire clan. I saw that no one within Divine Phoenix Nation oppressed others who were weaker than them. All these years, I had felt lucky and proud to be Royal Father's daughter and a citizen of Divine Phoenix Nation. I relied on Royal Father and respected every single clan member, and even believed that Royal Father was the most noble person in the world, and that the Divine Phoenix Sect that I was born in was the most noble sect and family. Every day, I reminded myself that I must use all my abilities to inherit the Lord Phoenix God's will and carry Divine Phoenix Sect's future on my shoulders. Xue'er! Feng Hengkang closed his eyes slowly. However, is all this simply just a facade? For the sake of our own survival and prosperity, we kill innocent citizens like devils. Millions of lives were lost, and we turned a nation into a living hell, even if the Divine Phoenix was able to become the world's strongest by dyeing itself with the blood of countless innocent people, and carried numerous sins. It would only make me feel fear and disgust. Even Lord Phoenix God would not be able to accept or pardon this. Feng Hengkong's chest suffocated as he felt as though he had been suppressed by a heavy steel board. His mixed feelings even caused his consciousness to feel fuzzy. At this moment, an extremely violent torrent of profound energy suddenly exploded forth from within the heavy and suppressed space. Feng Tianwei, who had stayed silent the entire time, suddenly made a move. His hand, which was burning with scarlet flames, was like a devil's blood-drenched claw as it struck straight towards Yun Qi's heart. Everyone, including Feng Hengkong and Feng Ziming, who were closest to him, were caught off guard as well. When Feng Tianwei made his move, he was merely less than 100 meters away from Yun Qi. Suddenly making a move at such a distance. Forget about Yun Qi, even if it was an expert at the same level without any defenses prepared. It was still extremely possible to be severely injured with a single strike. To Feng Tianwei, Yun Qi had to die today no matter what. With him dead, future troubles could be prevented, and Feng Xue'er's feelings could be severed as well. As for other matters, they could be slowly alleviated in the future. After all, the Phoenix bloodline flowed in Feng Xue'er's body. After all, she was the daughter of the Divine Phoenix Imperial family. At such a close distance, a level 6 monarch unleashed his full strength while everyone was caught unawares. Feng Tianwei had absolute confidence that in the next instant, he could slice Yun Qi into ribbons, and then burn his corpse and bones into nothingness. However, when his hand had just reached a distance 30 meters away from Yun Qi, a pressure, heavy to the point where the blood in his entire body had seemingly frozen up instantly, suddenly descended from the sky. His movements abruptly turned sluggish, and following after, his line of sight was completely shrouded by a scarlet-red light that had suddenly appeared. The flames directly struck against Feng Tianwei's chest, causing him to suffocate in an instant. At the same time, all the profound energy that welled up within his body receded back like a tide. This brought him great shock as he swiftly congealed all of his energy. But no matter how he tried to circulate his profound energy, he was still unable to release any of it. In the span of a single breath, even the phoenix flames burning on his body had been completely extinguished. This bizarre occurrence, which had never occurred before, caused him to become pale in shock and horrified as his body was swiftly and forcefully shoved away by the crushing scarlet light. Within his ears rang the sounds of Feng Hengkong and the others shouting in alarm. It was not only him who had been shoved aside by this ring of flames, but instead all the Divine Phoenix Sect members in the vicinity as well. When the ring of flames burst out, everyone else were pushed as far as where the flames went. Not to mention the surrounding people, even Feng Tianwei himself didn't have the strength to muster a resistance against it. A bewitchingly beautiful giant flame lotus had bloomed in the air above Phoenix City as layer upon layer of fire petals unfurled themselves. The moment 100 layers of these flame petals had unfurled themselves, all of the Divine Phoenix Sect members who had previously been surrounding Yun Qi had been pushed several kilometers away. At the center of this gigantic flame lotus stood Feng Xue'er and Yun Qi. Once the overly rich and effusive fire light finally stopped filling his vision, Feng Tianwei quickly raised his head to look towards Feng Xue'er, and once his gaze came into contact with the all-too-real image of the phoenix behind Feng Xue'er, his entire body froze in place as his soul began to violently tremble uncontrollably. He almost couldn't prevent himself from collapsing to his knees in order to pay obeisance to that sacred figure. The Phoenix soul, has awakened. The bewitchingly beautiful fire lotus did not continue to blossom, and it did not hurt anyone either. It had merely forcefully pushed everyone else aside. Outside of the fire lotus, the gazes of everyone present seemed to have caught fire as shock was written all over their faces. But aside from the shock, there was also a deep excitement, elation and incredulity that was contained within. Black Moon Merchant Guild. Bang! The cyan jade teacup in Zai Jai's fingers had broken into tiny fragments. Master! The three young girls behind him quickly moved forward, their faces filled with both doubt and anxiety at the same time. The Phoenix God's aura has finally appeared, Zai Jai muttered to himself. Immediately his eyes flickered as he said, "That's not right. This is the 8th level of the Sovereign Profound Realm. Could it be?" The profound energy surrounding Zai Jai faintly vibrated. His body flickered, and in an instant, his body had suddenly appeared in front of his window in a ghostly manner. He focused his gaze in the direction of the Divine Phoenix Sect before continuing. Quickly go and verify the source of that aura. Understood? A deep and low voice that was not more than 100 meters to his right rang out in response. The fire lotus, which had pushed everyone aside, had already begun to recede. But at this moment, everyone else's attention was no longer focused on Xianxia. Instead, it was directed at Feng Xue'er and the image of the phoenix behind her. All of them could feel that the aura radiating from her body, which was clearly similar to that of their ancestral phoenix god. Xue'er, has your phoenix soul been awakened? Feng Henkang said excitedly as he stretched out both of his hands. Every single one of the gathered Divine Phoenix elders became so emotional that they couldn't even utter a single word, while some had even begun to weep. The significance of the Phoenix soul awakening was something that outsiders would never understand. But for the Divine Phoenix Sect, it was akin to a heavenly order. Both Feng Henkang and Feng Tianwei clearly remembered the words the Phoenix god had personally left them before it passed away. Given the innate talent of Feng Xue'er, the Phoenix soul which it had passed onto Feng Xue'er would awaken after a century had gone by. The moment the Phoenix soul within Feng Xue'er awakened and completely fused with her body of the Divine Phoenix, it would cause her Phoenix profound energy to grow by leaps and bounds. Furthermore, in the 10 years that followed, her strength would swiftly grow at a rate that could not be comprehended by any normal means. In the end, it was possible that she could even reach the height where the Phoenix god once stood. From then on, she would become the Divine Phoenix Sect's second Phoenix god. And if she continued her cultivation, it was even possible for her to surpass the previous Phoenix god. Because of that, after the passing of the Phoenix Divine Spirit, Feng Xue'er became the future of the Divine Phoenix Sect. And they could definitely never allow the news of the Phoenix god's death to be exposed to the world before Feng Xue'er had finished growing. As such, no matter what method Feng Henkang had to use, he had to protect the Divine Phoenix Sect. Once a century had passed, when Feng Xue'er's Phoenix soul and Phoenix body both underwent their respective awakenings, she would become the second Phoenix god, and the Divine Phoenix Sect would not have to fear any other power anymore, not even the 4 sacred grounds. But Feng Henkang and Feng Tianwei had never thought nor had dared to even dream that Feng Xue'er's Phoenix soul had actually already awakened. That oppressive might that should only belong to their ancestral Phoenix god, and the image of the Phoenix that seemed to be completely real were the best pieces of evidence to prove this. And it was also clear that her Phoenix profound strength had undergone an incredible growth. Feng Tianwei was a level 6 monarch, but even he could barely muster any resistance in the face of the flames that she had released. And it was definitely not purely because of the suppressive effect of the Phoenix god's might. Instead, it was a suppression born of absolute strength. To the Divine Phoenix Sect, this was a wonderful surprise that bordered on pure fantasy. In this case, they did not need to hold on for a century anymore. Within the short span of a decade, Feng Xue'er's Phoenix profound strength would rapidly increase due to the fusion between her soul and her bloodline. Once this process was completed, she would possess power that would rival the ancestral Phoenix god's divine strength, and their Divine Phoenix Sect would no longer have to worry about any future threats. A century versus a decade, for the Divine Phoenix Sect, this was definitely not as simple as just having to wait 10 times the amount of time. More than that, it made a huge difference in the fate of the entire clan. Xue'er, the 3 years that you had been in comatose, was it because your Phoenix soul was undergoing its awakening? Feng Tianwei asked in a trembling voice, and even though he was normally an unwavering and ferocious person, he had already forgotten about his murderous intent towards Xianxia. Feng Xue'er had lain unconscious for 3 years, and all this while, her body had been shrouded in a peculiar phoenix flame that even he could not approach. During this period, they had discussed innumerable conjectures and suspicions, but they had never once came to the conclusion that the phoenix soul was awakening. Yes, Feng Xue'er, who bathed in the light of the phoenix image while standing in the heart of the burning star Fire Lotus, seemed to be a fairy of divine flames who stepped right out of heavenly sacred text. Her exquisite beauty was unmatched in the world, and her hair, which was releasing the power of the Phoenix soul, had become as crimson as flames. Her eyes, manner, and aura had all undergone massive changes. She paused before continuing. Do all of you know why my Phoenix soul would awaken in such a short period of time? Why did it awaken so quickly? It was undoubtedly an answer which everyone within the Divine Phoenix Sect wanted to know. And even if this was a miracle granted to them by heaven, then there should still be a reason for the miracle to happen in the first place. It was because of Big Brother Yun. Feng Xue'er's gaze fell on Xianxia as she spoke softly. 3 years ago, not only did Big Brother Yun save my life, but he also bestowed the 5th and the 6th levels of the world ode of the Phoenix to me. This not only pushed the Phoenix's profound strength within my body to a whole new level, it also allowed me to completely master it while completing the laws of Phoenix flames which supported the Phoenix soul. All of this allowed the Phoenix soul that the great Phoenix god bestowed upon me to awaken before a century had passed. Xue'er's life was saved by Big Brother Yun. Xue'er's awakened Phoenix soul was also due to the efforts of Big Brother Yun. And the grand favor that Big Brother Yun has done for Xue'er, no, for our entire clan is so huge that we will never be able to repay him. But all of you keep on trying to harm and even kill Big Brother Yun. Feng Xue'er was furious, and this was the first time in their lives that everyone present had seen Feng Xue'er filled with so much anger. She slowly extended a hand, and the Phoenix image behind her also spread its beautiful wings. The oppressive might of the Phoenix, which was enough to flip the world on its head, descended from the sky, enveloping the entire Phoenix city as well as all of the people within it. Facing the awakened soul of the Phoenix, even if one's profound strength was far greater than Feng Xue'er, they would also tremble and bow before the might of the Phoenix god. So there was no need to think about whether one even had the strength to resist, because no one could even form the notion of resistance in the first place. Once she had completed her transformation into the Phoenix god, then at that time, if she wanted to completely seal someone's Phoenix profound energy, or if she wanted to purge anyone's bloodline or life, she only needed to think about it, and it would happen. I swear in the name of the Phoenix god. This girl, whose heart was as pure as driven snow, spoke in a grave and solemn tone that could have never possibly came from her mouth. Within the sect, if anyone dares to try to harm Big Brother Yun again, no matter who it is, I will never forgive that person. And if Big Brother Yun dies, then I will immediately purge my own Phoenix soul and Phoenix blood. Xue'er! Feng Xue'er's words caused Feng Henkang to become pale in shock and fear. He was clear, very clear indeed, that if Feng Xue'er died, then the Divine Phoenix Sect was done for as well. Furthermore, they would not even have a future to hope towards. At the same time, she was his only and most adored daughter, the greatest pride and joy of his life, and he would rather die 100,000 times than to see her get hurt in the slightest. Feng Xue'er's voice was extremely crisp and clear, and with these words that she had said, Feng Tianwei would definitely, under no circumstances whatsoever, dare to move against Yunqi any longer, especially now that her Phoenix soul had already awakened to everyone within the Divine Phoenix Sect. Her every word was like a sacred law that could not be violated. Okay, grandfather will promise Xue'er, as long as Yunqi no longer bothers us from today onwards, not a single person within our clan will act against him, or against the people dear to him. Feng Tianwei calmed his heart and spoke in an extremely sincere manner. He destroyed the Phoenix God statue, killed Zichen and Ziluo, and everything else he did can be written off, and we will not pursue it any further. And over at Blue Wind Nation, we will immediately order our troops to withdraw, and we are even willing to compensate and appease the Blue Wind Nation up to a certain point. Is this fine with you? The Golden Crow domain had already been completely withdrawn by Yunqi. He stood in the middle of the Fire Lotus with Feng Xue'er as he silently attempted to perceive the aura that was being released by Feng Xue'er. Even though both of them had inherited the purest Phoenix blood and Phoenix soul, he could still feel that the purity of the Feng Xue'er's Phoenix bloodline was at least several hundred times more than his own. Moreover, even if everyone within the Divine Phoenix Sect were to combine their bloodline together, it would never be comparable to Feng Xue'er's. As for the difference between Yunqi's and Feng Xue'er's Phoenix soul, it was not as exaggerated. It was only 2 times more than the one he inherited. However, in the face of the oppressive might of the Phoenix, which was produced by a Phoenix bloodline that was hundreds of times purer than his, he could feel that it was on a completely different level compared to his own. If he did not have the Dragon God's soul within him, even he would not be able to control the urge to kneel in the face of the Phoenix's oppressive might. So it was exceedingly clear how much regard and love the Divine Phoenix Sect's ancestral Phoenix God had for Feng Xue'er. It had, without any reservation, completely poured its entire being into her. After Yunqi, who had been fixated on Feng Xue'er, heard the words spoken by Feng Tianwei, his gaze turned cold. After that, a deep and cold laugh erupted from his chest as his eyes, which were as sharp and cold as icy knives, fixed themselves on Feng Tianwei. Feng Tianwei, I think you're getting something awfully wrong here. The fact that you want to kill me is indeed something that the heavens should smite all of you for. But the fact that I want to kill you is completely righteous and just. You ransacked my Blue Wind Nation, so you should face destruction as well. Even if the entire Divine Phoenix Empire was hollowed out to compensate the Blue Wind Nation, it would still be justified. To think that you actually have the face to make it sound like not attacking me and withdrawing your troops are gracious acts. Yun Qi, don't you spit in the face of our courtesy. Feng Tianwei's face had instantly darkened as well. Just who is the one that is spitting in the face courtesy? Yun Qi aggressively said, his voice filled with icy contempt. Do you truly believe that you could kill me if Xue'er didn't get in the way just now? Do you truly believe that I would be so naive and foolish as to back myself into a corner by forgiving you without an ace up my sleeve? Feng Tianwei, if I truly wanted to leave, even if there were 10 of you, you still wouldn't even be able to touch a hair on my head. Yun Qi fixed his eyes on both Feng Tianwei and Feng Hengkang as his gaze grew dark and ferocious. If I truly wanted to destroy your entire clan, I actually didn't even need to lift a single finger. All I needed to do was to leak a particular secret that all of you were so desperate to keep hidden to a few particular people. Perhaps I might have also been able to reap a lot of benefits from it. Yun Qi's words caused Feng Hengkang and Feng Tianwei's expression to dramatically change. His previous confidence had stemmed from the fact that he knew about the secret. Both he and Feng Xue'er had the Phoenix Soul, so perhaps this was the reason he knew about that secret. So now, all of you should know just how great a courtesy I have already shown to all of you. Yun Qi extended a finger and pointed it at Feng Hengkang's face. The past 2 times you tried to kill me with an ambush. For the sake of Xue'er, I can leave that aside for now. But all the conditions that I have mentioned before, not one of them must be left unfulfilled, and they must be fulfilled to a T. So you must definitely remember not to spit in the face of my courtesy again. The same words that Feng Tianwei had just uttered were fiercely thrown back to his face. Yun Qi's words suddenly caused the atmosphere to become stifling once more, as the sense of elation felt by the Divine Phoenix Sect from the awakening of Feng Xue'er's Phoenix Soul mercilessly had a bucket of cold water splashed over it. Today, no matter how unable Feng Hengkang was to understand and accept it, he had no choice but to realize that the fate of the Divine Phoenix Sect lay solely in the hands of Yun Qi right now. At least it was for the decade before Feng Xue'er fully blossomed into her own. Moreover, because of Feng Xue'er's decisiveness, they were now incapable of moving against Yun Qi any further in the end. The fate of this sect that had lorded over the continent for 5 millennia was completely in Yun Qi's hands. However, Feng Hengkang no longer displayed the anger and discontent that he had expressed previously. After a short period of stiffness, his grim face finally relaxed because now that it had come to this, he had no choice but to resign himself to fate. He gave a great sigh before slowly speaking. Xue'er is indeed correct, absolutely correct. All of this has happened because of us. The deaths of Ziluo, Elder Tianqing, and the others are all because of us as well, even though we only had the good of the Divine Phoenix Empire in mind. The methods we used and the consequences that we wrought were indeed evil and terrible enough for us to have to endure this sort of retribution. If not for the decision that we made 3 years ago, our sect would not have met with such calamity, and Ziluo and the others would not have died such miserable deaths. All of these things are the consequences we have reaped from our terrible mistake. And naturally, this is something that we must take responsibility for. Feng Hengkang placed his palm against his chest. The Phoenix Soul within Xue'er has already awakened, so the greatest wish in our life has already been fulfilled. There is nothing more that we could ask for. Today, as long as we can ensure the immediate safety and stability of our sect, you do not even need to talk about asking us to destroy our own profound art and kneel for 100 years. Because even if you asked us to end our own life right now, we would not even twitch an eyelid. Withdrawing the troops, stopping the war, paying compensation, ceding away territory, and even offering a sacrifice, we will not be remiss in making sure that all of it comes to pass. I only hope that you will do as you have said. Feng Hengkang gave a low yell as his palm ignited with phoenix flames, and he sent it exploding towards his own profound veins. Sect Master! The entire Divine Phoenix Sect gave a huge cry of alarm as they frantically rushed towards Feng Hengkang. But how could they possibly arrive in time to stop him? Royal Father, don't! Feng Xue'er gave a shrill cry of alarm as a scarlet flame flashed in her phoenix eyes. Instantly, Feng Hengkang's phoenix profound energy was completely sealed away. and even the concentrated, profound energy that had been gathered in his palm had completely dissipated. And by the time his palm smacked against his chest, even all the flames had died out. Forget about him being able to destroy his own profound veins. He was not even able to inflict a superficial injury on himself. Sect Master, all the gathered Divine Phoenix elders surged forth anxiously as they grabbed and restricted Feng Hengkong's arms. Sect Master, do not, you definitely must not do this. Xue'er. Feng Hengkong stared dazedly at Feng Xue'er, his nose faintly crinkled and his eyes grew slightly hazy. He knew that even though Feng Xue'er was furious at him, she was ultimately still truly concerned about his well-being. Feng Xue'er did not release the seal on Feng Hengkong's strength. She turned towards Yun Qi and pleaded with him with tears streaming from her eyes. Big brother Yun, even though my royal father has committed many grave and irreversible mistakes, Xue'er knows better than everyone that he is definitely not an evil person. If not, the Lord Phoenix God would not allow grandfather to pass on the position of sect master to my royal father. As both the sect master of Divine Phoenix Sect and the emperor of Divine Phoenix Nation, my royal father had to bear a burden and a duty that normal people would be unable to even imagine. So at times, he would have no choice but to make some decisions, even if they were extreme or even cruel and merciless. But he is really not someone who is filled with evil, and Xue'er is even more willing to believe that when my royal father made that decision 3 years ago, he was more tormented and helpless than anyone else, because all of the sin, debts of blood, vilification, and the souls of the departed would weigh down on him. Xue'er. Feng Hengkong's entire body trembled, and the moment those words had escaped his lips, tears began to stream down his face. Before this, Xue'er had used her own body to shield Yun Qi, and for the sake of Yun Qi, she had raised her voice and become angry at him. At that time, the pain he felt was akin to 10,000 arrows piercing his heart. But now, after hearing Xue'er's words, even if he were died 10,000 times over, he would no longer have any regrets. Big brother Yun, Xue'er isn't trying to explain away the sins of my royal father. It is only that no matter whether it is the Divine Phoenix Sect, Divine Phoenix Nation, or Xue'er herself, all of us need my royal father. So I beg of you, big brother Yun, please let my royal father off and give him a chance to make amends for his actions towards Blue Wind Nation. Xue'er will replace her royal father and follow big brother Yun to Blue Wind Nation and apologize and make amends towards Empress Kang Yue and the entire Blue Wind Nation. Xue'er, what are you saying? Feng Hengkong's face was filled with shock and horror. All of this is your royal father's fault. It has nothing to do with you at all. No. Feng Xue'er slowly shook her head. She raised her phoenix eyes as she softly continued. I am royal father's daughter, and as your daughter, I must definitely join royal father in apologizing and making amendments for his mistakes. Xue'er hopes that after we have expiated our sins that royal father remains safe and unharmed. And I hope even more that royal father forever remembers what has happened today, so that he will from now onwards treat Blue Wind Nation kindly, and treat all those who are innocent and good kindly as well. I also hope that no matter what happens in the future, that royal father will never commit such a grave mistake again. Big brother Yun, Xue'er is willing to accompany you to Blue Wind right this day, so that I can meet Empress Kang Yue. And no matter what she says to me, Xue'er will not have any regrets or resentment. Is that okay? Feng Xue'er looked at Yun Qi earnestly, her phoenix eyes misty and filled with pleading. Xue'er, don't say such foolish things. Feng Hengkong was thrown into panic. He was completely panicked, and even when he had been forced to the very brink of desperation by Yun Qi, he had not reacted with such anxiousness. Yun Qi. 3 years ago, it was us who ordered the invasion of Blue Wind. It was also us who gave the instructions for the Blue Wind Nation to be subjugated within the shortest amount of time, no matter what methods we used. And it was also us who ordered the assassination of Kang Wan. All of these things were orders that we had personally given. All of these were only the sins of us and us alone. Let us not even talk about your request that we cripple our profound art and atone for 100 years. Even if you wanted our life, we would give it to you right now. But all of this has nothing to do with Xue'er, nothing at all. Feng Hengkong struggled to shrug off the arms of all the elders who had grabbed a hold of him as he roared with widened eyes. We are willing to go with you to Blue Wind Nation right now. And once we are there, you can do whatever you want to us. Our sins can only be expiated by us and us alone. Yun Qi, you should be more clear than anyone else that this matter has absolutely nothing to do with Xue'er, nothing at all. It could be said that the present Feng Henkang was filled with shame and remorse. Before this, Feng Xue'er had been desperately protecting Xianxia, but at the same time, she was also rescuing the Divine Phoenix Sect as well. He could not imagine just how much today's situation would have worsened if not for the timely appearance of Feng Xue'er. It was Feng Xue'er who had pulled the entire sect back from the brink of the abyss. And right now, it was again Feng Xue'er, for the sake of his safety, who was willing to replace him and travel to Blue Wind Nation in order to atone for all of his sins. Even if there was really a medicine for regret in this world, it would still be unable to get rid of the regret that filled every nook and cranny of his soul. Xianxia shot Feng Henkang a casual and disinterested glance. After that, he took Feng Xue'er's small hand and said with a faint smile, "Fine, then we will do as Xue'er wishes, and you can replace your royal father to accompany me back to Blue Wind." Xianxia! Feng Henkang let out a lion's roar as his entire body fiercely trembled. You dare. If you dare to take Xue'er away today, if you dare to harm a single hair on Xue'er's head, Xianxia coldly snorted. Xue'er saved my life, and there is nothing more that I would want to do than to cherish her. If not for Xue'er, do you actually think that you would still be able to stand there and kick up a big fuss? And do you think that your Divine Phoenix Sect would be let off with just these few deaths? Also, in regards to harming Xue'er, Feng Henkang, compared to you, I am truly inferior, Xianxia said mockingly. Those words had caused Feng Henkang's face to become as white as a ghost. As the emperor of a country, my Kang Yue is 1,000,000 times more compassionate than you. She will not harm Xue'er, and I will not allow anyone else to harm her either. Besides, when it comes to representing the Divine Phoenix Empire, in many ways, Xue'er is even more suitable than you are. So you better treasure the status, freedom, and life that Xue'er has guaranteed for you. When Xue'er comes back, she will naturally tell you just what kind of amends my Kang Yue desires of you. Big Brother Yun, thank you. I know that I am being very selfish, but he is, after all, still my father. Feng Xue'er lightly tugged the small hand that was being held within Xianxia's own as her voice and eyes grew hazy. She was very clear just how much Xianxia had stepped back for her sake. Xianxia shook his head and said with a faint smile, "For me, you were even able to make that evil oath that you would purge your own phoenix blood and phoenix soul. So in comparison, what I have done can't even begin to measure up that." Amen. Feng Xue'er nodded her head vigorously as a celestial smile appeared on her face. No, we definitely must not let Xue'er accompany Xianxia to Blue Wind. Royal Father, you need to hurry up and stop it, Feng Ximing said anxiously. This is Xue'er we are talking about. Feng Henkang did not respond to Feng Ximing. His eyes were in a daze for a while before he suddenly shouted, "Xianxia, you can bring Xue'er with you to Blue Wind, however, we must follow you. Otherwise, even if we were to die here today, we will never allow you to bring Xue'er away." Royal Father. Feng Xue'er panicked just as she was about to speak. She heard Xianxia's exceptionally calm reply, "Sure. Or should I say even better? After all, what my Kang Yue wanted to see the most is you personally come to atone for your sins." Big Brother Yun, Feng Xue'er hands tightened. "You don't have to worry," Xianxia gently replied. Just a few simple words settled the nerves and anxiety that Feng Xue'er was feeling previously as she replied with a simple, "Amen." Xianxia did not refuse because he knew clearly what Feng Henkang was afraid of. He was not worried about Feng Xue'er's safety. After all, Feng Xue'er's current strength had already obviously surpassed that of Feng Tianwei. Within Blue Wind Nation, there was no existence that could possibly pose a threat to her. However, Feng Xue'er had never left the boundaries of Divine Phoenix City before, and Xianxia was also a highly dangerous person. Even if it wasn't Feng Henkang, any ordinary father would not possibly feel safe to allow his daughter, who had never left home before, to follow a man to a foreign place alone. Therefore, no matter what, Feng Henkang had to tag along to protect her, even if it meant that he himself had to remain within Blue Wind Nation's territories. Black Moon Merchant Guild, 7th floor. Master, it was indeed the Divine Phoenix Ark that had just left Phoenix City. After much investigation, we have confirmed that there are only 3 people on board the Divine Phoenix Ark: Xianxia, Feng Henkang, and Princess Snow, Feng Xue'er. They are traveling in the direction of the Blue Wind Nation. If they are truly headed towards Blue Wind Nation, then they will arrive at Blue Wind Imperial City before tomorrow evening. Can we find out what exactly happened just now? Zai asked with sunken brows. Feng Tianwei is still here, so we do not dare to go closer, but we should be able to acquire all the information before tomorrow. Zai let out a long and deep sigh before he continued. The events that took place this day truly had many twists and turns. It could be said that every development that took place over the course of this entire affair was completely out of his expectations. For Xianxia, who had an extremely good insight and could normally grasp any situation, this was a rather heavy blow. Master, this subordinate also has one more thing to report. A century ago, we sent 11 people to infiltrate the illusory demon realm. We had already lost 8 of them, but the last 3 soul imprints just vanished, not more than 15 minutes ago. It is very likely that their identities have been exposed, and after that, their souls were searched before they were executed. Xianxia lapsed into a heavy silence. Master, you actually don't need to be too concerned over this matter. 100 years ago, the people we sent to infiltrate the illusory demon realm only brought along 7 sound transmission stones with them. 1 year ago, the news that they transmitted back to us just so happened to be the 7th time they have done so as well. This also means that all 7 of the sound transmission stones have been used. So even if they managed to survive, they would be unable to send any more messages back to us. Although they have already lost their lives, at least they have already fulfilled their mission. The sound transmission stone he was talking about was naturally not the normal sound transmission stones that were commonly used. Instead, it was a special kind of sound transmission stones which could transmit messages over 500,000 kilometers. It could be used to send messages from the illusory demon realm back to the profound sky continent. In the entire profound sky continent, only the 4 sacred grounds who had enormous and incomparable resources possessed these sound transmission stones, and even then, there were still an extremely small amount of them in existence. Before this, they had been safe and sound for all this while, but it was only recently that they were rooted out one after the other. It looks like something huge must have happened in the illusory demon realm, Xianxia said gently. However, rather than their exposure and survival, what I am even more concerned about is the last piece of news that they had sent back 1 year ago. 1 year ago? That report detailed the current status of the 12 guardian families which resided within Demon Imperial City. And when it came to the Yun family, it was mentioned that the crippled Yun Kinghung had adopted a foster son called Yun Qi. Xianxia's words stopped here. The blue-clothed man beside Xianxia immediately furrowed his brows as he responded with a voice filled with doubt and suspicion. Could it be that Master believes that this foster child has something to do with Yun Qi? It should only be a coincidence that their names sound similar. After all, at that time I hadn't even paid any notice to this fact, but now... Xianxia did not continue speaking. In his mind appeared an image that he had seen within the profound imagery stone. One of 2 wings spread wide open at daybreak, and also the turbulent green-colored storm that had gathered beneath those wings, and also the Yun Qi who had managed to return alive. Master, could it be that? Xianxia faintly shook his head and refused to make any further comment. But after that, his tone changed as he spoke in a rather gloomy manner. A century ago, when we were attacking Demon Imperial City, we were not the only ones who took advantage of the chaos to send in an infiltration squad. Mighty Heavenly Sword region did so as well. I wonder if they have also finished using all of their sound transmission stones. Divine Phoenix Arc. It was the highest grade profound arc possessed by the Divine Phoenix Sect, and it was a national symbol of the Divine Phoenix Empire. Its appearance definitely meant that the Emperor himself had come. As the curtain of night began to fall across the sky, the Divine Phoenix Arc had already neared the borders of Divine Phoenix. As it flew past, there was not a single citizen of Divine Phoenix Nation who did not kneel from afar. The huge Divine Phoenix Arc currently housed only 3 people: Yun Qi, Feng Xue'er, and Feng Henkang, whose expression had undergone several changes. Royal Father said that given the speed of the Divine Phoenix Arc, by this time tomorrow, we should have already reached Blue Wind Imperial City. Feng Xue'er sat by Yun Qi's side, and her body was in very close proximity to his. When she spoke, her face had a rosy color, and it was clear that she was very excited. After all, this was the very first time she had left the Divine Phoenix Nation ever since she was born. She had been dreaming of this day ever since she was a child. Feng Henkang's face uncontrollably twitched as he observed how Feng Xue'er not only lacked the slightest inhibitions towards Yun Qi, but she even seemed to naturally draw close to him as she looked at him with a gaze filled with intimacy. However, the only thing Feng Henkang could do was to silently let out a melancholic sigh. In the few hours they had inside the Divine Phoenix Arc, He had already given the exact same sigh countless of times. He had naturally protected Feng Xue'er as much as he possibly could. Even her own blood brothers were not able to come within 3 steps of her, much less outsiders. If a disciple within the sect managed to see Feng Xue'er even once, it could be counted as great fortune. But just like this, Feng Henkong extended a hand to grab the top of his head, and his fingers tightened up in such a way that it seemed as if he simply wanted to seize all the hair on his head. He would rather have Xianxia bring about a disaster that would smash the Divine Phoenix Sect to the ground than to see him bring disaster to Feng Xue'er. Were you the one who killed Feng Chihuo as well? Feng Henkong, who had been grabbing his head, abruptly asked Xianxia a question. Yes. Xianxia did not even hesitate in delivering his succinct reply. Ha! Feng Henkong did not continue after that. Now that things had come to this point, nothing more was left to be said. Right now, he could only hope that Feng Xue'er's feelings towards Xianxia had not grown to the point where he wouldn't dare think to. I also have a question to ask you. Xianxia's eyes locked onto Feng Henkong's. The real reason behind the invasion of Blue Wind Nation, what exactly is it? Feng Henkong's entire body stiffened, but he did not reply. Royal Father, Xue'er wishes to know as well. Feng Xue'er softly said, because the Royal Father I know is definitely not a cruel and merciless person, so the decision that Royal Father made 3 years ago, there must be an extremely special reason for it. Can you tell Big Brother Yun and I about it? And perhaps after knowing the reason, Big Brother Yun might soften his stance towards my Royal Father, even if it's just by a little bit. Feng Henkong's hand slowly lowered. He had no ability to reject Feng Xue'er's soft and gentle request, and he had also remembered that Xianxia clearly knew the truth of the Phoenix God's passing. He released a feeble sigh before he began to speak. 4 years ago, as our sect's Spirit Earth Hall began to make preparations for the appearance of the primordial profound arc, we had coincidentally discovered a very faint and weak reaction of a purple crystal mine to the extreme east of Blue Wind Nation. Never in our history had we ever recorded such a reaction to a purple crystal mine that was located so far away from us. So we secretly dispatched some of Spirit Earth Hall's protectorates to go investigate this occurrence, and they discovered that an extremely huge and powerful purple crystal mine lies deep beneath the lands to the east of a small city that was known as Floating Cloud City. If we were able to extract and refine all the crystals in this mine, we would be able to obtain a whole 50 kilograms of purple veined divine crystal. Ah! Feng Xue'er let out a cry of surprise. Just the notion of having 50 kilograms of purple veined heaven crystal was enough shake the heavens, much less having 50 kilograms of purple veined divine crystal. Even the 4 sacred grounds would regard 50 kilograms of purple veined divine crystal as incomparably huge resources. One must know that it required at least 500 years for a sacred ground to accumulate 50 kilograms of purple veined divine crystal. So if the Divine Phoenix Sect were able to completely obtain all of these purple veined divine crystals, it would be equivalent to gaining 5 centuries worth of accumulation of a sacred ground. This kind of temptation was enough to entice the Divine Phoenix Sect. It was enough to even entice any power that existed within the profound sky continent to go after it at all costs, even if they had to behave unscrupulously. So that was the case. Xianxia raised his head because Feng Henkong's words had cleared up nearly all the suspicions and doubt in his mind. Big Brother Yun, did you figure out everything already? Xianxia's words caused Feng Xue'er to look at him with a puzzled expression. I have more or less understood the gist of it. Xianxia stood up, his brow furrowed as he stared at Feng Henkong. But I'll let your royal father finish his story. Feng Henkong faintly squeezed his eyes shut before continuing his tale once more. In the years after our ancestral Phoenix god had passed away, the ones who were aware of this fact were seized with an intense sense of crisis. Because the moment this matter got out, Divine Phoenix Sect would definitely be suppressed by the 4 sacred grounds, and there was even a possibility that we would be wiped out altogether. So while we fiercely protected the secret that the Phoenix god had already passed away, we were also desperately looking for a method to protect the sect in the event that the secret got exposed, or at the very least, a method to ensure Xue'er's safety. And the discovery of this gigantic purple crystal mine caused great joy to spring up in the hearts of us and our royal father. If we could really obtain 50 kilograms of purple veined divine crystal, we would be able to birth several supreme powerhouses within a short period of time, and from then on, we would have yet another layer of security. It was just for this. All of it just for the sake of obtaining the purple crystal mine within Blue Wind Nation. Feng Xue'er was mystified as she shook her head in confusion. But what does this have to do with Royal Father's order to invade Blue Wind Nation, and the terrible and cruel way in which it was conducted? Of course it was for the sake of keeping everything absolutely confidential, so that the four sacred grounds would not notice what they were really doing, Xianxia said, but his eyes held a faint glimmer of mockery as well. At all times, the four sacred grounds always have people secretly observing the movements of Divine Phoenix Sect. The existence of this purple crystal mine was known only to the few core members of the sect, and it was natural that these very members would be at the heart of any spying on the Divine Phoenix Sect. So no matter how covert their actions were, there was still a huge risk that they would be discovered. The moment the existence of this purple crystal mine was exposed, it would no longer belong to Divine Phoenix Sect. So the real motive behind your war with the Blue Wind Nation was to cover your true intentions and divert the attention of the four sacred grounds. In order to make this diversion as convincing and realistic as possible, you did not hesitate to slaughter innocents and raze cities, all to make it seem as if you were anxious to conquer Blue Wind Nation in the shortest amount of time possible, so that you could give the impression that you were venting your anger on Blue Wind Nation because of the loss of prestige that Divine Phoenix Sect had suffered at my hands during the Seven Nations ranking tournament. Yes, Feng Henkang said as he nodded with a dull expression on his face. All for the sake of 50 kilograms of purple vein divine crystal. Heh! Looking at Feng Henkang's expression, Xianxia gave a cold laugh. Looking at you right now, it seems like you believe that you have done nothing wrong. To Blue Wind Nation, we should indeed suffer the wrath of the heaven. But we are the Emperor of Divine Phoenix, and also the Sect Master of Divine Phoenix Sect. Feng Henkang raised his head to stare directly at Xianxia. These 50 kilograms of purple vein divine crystal may just be a huge resource to other people. But to our Divine Phoenix Nation who had lost its ancestral Phoenix God, it was our last sliver of hope. The results of what happened has indeed caused us great regret, but our decision was definitely not wrong. How naive. Did you really think that a meager 50 kilograms of purple vein divine crystal would be enough to protect your Divine Phoenix Sect once the Phoenix God's passing was exposed to the world? Xianxia coldly asked. At the very least, it would have given us a bit more power to protect Xue'er. As long as we can protect Xue'er for 100 years, even if our sect was completely obliterated, we would still have boundless hope for what would happen after. Feng Henkang yelled back in a low voice. Royal Father, please stop speaking already. The moment Feng Xue'er saw Xianxia and Feng Henkang begin to clash once more, she hurriedly threw herself in the middle of the two of them. Royal Father, no matter what the reason was, causing the death and suffering of so many innocent people is still a grave sin. Xue'er's Phoenix soul was awoken with help from Big Brother Yun, and I am already able to protect our Divine Phoenix Sect. Royal Father does not need to continue to worry about Xue'er anymore. The only thing Xue'er wants is for Royal Father and I to make amends for the sins that we have committed, so that we can obtain the forgiveness of Blue Wind Nation, and also the forgiveness of the spirit of Lord Phoenix God who rests in heaven. Xue'er! Feng Henkang looked at his daughter as his eyes gradually began to mist over. Now that I think about it, you instructed Feng Zichen to personally come to Blue Wind Imperial City to deliver the invitation for the Seven Nations ranking tournament all those years ago. However, that was all a pretense. The real motive was to use his status as a Divine Phoenix Prince to pick a fight with me over the matter of my bloodline. And from there, to create a reason to start a conflict, correct? Xianxia said with narrowed eyes. Yes, Feng Henkang did not even try to deny it. Xianxia continued to speak. And once the war had lasted for more than 2 years and the four sacred grounds slackened their watch over you, you began preparations to excavate the purple crystal mine. When you were extracting the purple crystals, even if it was deep below the ground, there would definitely be a large amount of noise. So the purpose of making that area a training ground and instructing the 200,000 troops stationed at Floating Cloud City to pound the earth every day was to completely conceal what was really going on. You are completely correct. Feng Henkang gave Xianxia a deep and profound look. He had only just revealed the existence of the purple crystal mine, yet Xianxia was able to piece together each and every piece of the puzzle flawlessly. That was just how terrifying his mind was. So right now, how much have you accomplished in achieving your goal? Xianxia asked coldly. Never in his life did he imagine that such a huge purple crystal mine would be hidden near Floating Cloud City, where he had spent more than a decade living in. a purple crystal mine that caused the Divine Phoenix Sect to go after it despite the enormous cost. A purple crystal mine that even he himself wanted. The region around Floating Cloud City was vast and barren, and only a few of the lowest-grade profound beasts lived there. If someone had told him that a huge mineral deposit that could produce 50 kilograms of purple vein divine crystal was hidden in the area before, even he would never believe it. 100%, 100%, Feng Hengkong's words caused Yun Qi's brows to sink deeply. Just about a month ago, we have finished mining all of the purple crystal mines, used hundreds of spatial rings to transport it secretly back to Phoenix City, and it is hidden within the forbidden grounds. Once everything is settled, we can start the refining process. The 200,000 army would still remain there and continue to behave the same way as before. This is to continue to confuse the 4 great sacred grounds and to attract their attention, Feng Hengkong said without evading anything. He had a feeling a long time ago that Yun Qi's eyes seemed to be able to see through any lies. Is that so? Then congratulations that this laboring great plan of yours was successfully carried out. Yun Qi scoffed and said, HMPH, since I dared to say it out loud, I am naturally prepared. Once our sect finish refining the purple vein divine crystals, we will gift 5 kilograms to the Blue Wind Imperial family, Feng Hengkong said coldly. To a small nation like Blue Wind, forget about 5 kilograms of purple vein divine crystal. The past generations of emperors probably had not even seen a real purple vein divine crystal. Just purple-veined heaven crystals would be considered as supreme sacred item. 5 kilograms. Ha 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 ha, Yun Qi laughed loudly. These are supposed to belong to our Blue Wind Nation, and the Phoenix Sect Master actually returned as much as 5 kilograms. Such generosity. You! Feng Hengkong's whole face showed anger, but just as he was about to return the favor, he saw Feng Xue'er's eyes, and he swallowed the words that he was about to say. He held his breath and said in a low voice, 7.5 kilograms, this is already my limit. No need, I don't care for it. You can save it and enjoy it yourselves. Yun Qi clearly showed disdain on his face. He showed no sign of interest towards the purple vein divine crystal that Feng Hengkong was speaking of, and didn't even seem to be joking at all. This instantly startled Feng Hengkong. Purple vein divine crystals were the highest, most divine existence in profound sky continent, and it was a sacred item that every profound practitioner desire in their dreams. When he told the truth, he was already prepared to be extorted by Yun Qi. But he absolutely did not expect that there was actually someone who could resist the temptation of purple vein divine crystals with contempt. But I want to advise Phoenix Sect Master something. You should be careful of another, Feng Feiyan, appearing among the people who know about the purple crystal mine. Yun Qi said mockingly. I wouldn't be stupid enough to allow something like this to happen a second time. You don't have to worry about it. Feng Hengkong responded coldly. Obviously, he was extremely confident about this matter, because the people within the sect who knew about the purple crystal mine were all truly his trusted subordinate. Besides himself, Feng Ziming and Feng Tianwei of the sect master bloodline. The memories of other people who knew of the existence of the purple crystal mine were all caged just like Feng Huey. They could not use any method to tell, write, or transmit it, and if they were soul-searched, those memories would disperse immediately. It was also precisely because of the lesson learned from Feng Feiyan that the Divine Phoenix Sect choose to use such extreme measure. I also have something to remind you of, Feng Hengkong continued speaking. The reason that things went so smoothly at Floating Cloud City was all thanks to a weirdo called Fen Juchen. He attracted more than 90% of focus away from us. And it was said that the reason that he appeared in Floating Cloud City was to kill you. He must already know the news that you're still alive by now. When the time comes, you'd better not die. Yun Qi. Ah, he wants to kill Big Brother Yun. Feng Xue'er jumped, but she immediately smiled and comforted. No problem, Big Brother Yun is so strong, he wouldn't be in danger for sure. Xue'er will also work hard to protect Big Brother Yun. Xue'er, you sigh? Feng Hengkong's eyebrows twitched and felt gloomy. Earlier, when Feng Xue'er just appeared, Jasmine had told Yun Qi right away that Feng Xue'er's profound strength now had already reached the 8th level of the sovereign profound realm, even surpassing Feng Tianwei. If Feng Xue'er really protected him by his side, it would basically be impossible for Fen Juchen to kill him. The commotion that Yun Qi had caused in Divine Phoenix Nation these days had been all over Blue Wind Imperial City already. Yesterday, when Yun Qi sent a sound transmission saying that he would return in the evening today with Feng Henkong and Princess Snow, Kang Yue was so excited that she didn't sleep all night. She had been waiting in the Monarch Great Hall since afternoon today. Even though she trusts Yun Qi indefinitely, she was still worried the whole time during the days of which Yun Qi was in Divine Phoenix Nation. Her greatest desire was for Yun Qi to return safely. Compared to that, the results didn't seem to be that important. The sky darkened and dusk had fallen. A large, profound arc appeared above Blue Wind Imperial City like a scarlet red flame, and it caused an uproar in the city. The Divine Phoenix arc stopped right above the Imperial Palace and landed slowly. Because it was too large, it didn't land on the ground, and instead it floated in midair as the profound aura surrounding it raised fierce currents of hot wind. That is the Divine Phoenix arc. Qin Wusheng, who had rushed here with Kang Yue, said with his face full of surprise when he saw the enormous object releasing a pressuring heat aura. Blue Wind Nation already had extremely few profound arcs, and this was the first time in his life that he saw a profound arc with such momentum. That's right, Dongfeng Xiu nodded slowly. Back then, when I accompanied the previous emperor to the 7-nation ranking tournament, I was lucky to have seen it once. Your Majesty said Yun Qi, Feng Henkong, and the legendary Princess Snow are arriving on the Divine Phoenix arc, and there is not a fourth person. Is that true? Qin Wusheng said in a low voice, and his expression showed doubt. The news that came from Divine Phoenix these days said that Yun Qi made a huge ruckus in Phoenix City, destroyed the Phoenix God sculpture, and killed several princes. It was no question that he had antagonized the Divine Phoenix Sect to the point of being absolutely irreconcilable, and only death could put an end to this. Yet yesterday, he suddenly sent a sound transmission like this to Kang Yue, even though the message was sent by Yun Qi himself, and was told by Kang Yue herself. Almost no one believed that Feng Henkong would bring only Princess Snow to follow Yun Qi here. He was the Emperor of Divine Phoenix, the Phoenix Sect Master, an existence that was the noblest and unparalleled of the profound sky's 7 nations. Even if he was to head to the weakest blue wind that was shrouded by disaster, he shouldn't be this alone. Master told me what the Divine Phoenix arc looked like. It can't be wrong. Brother-in-law. Xia Yuanba's face was full of excitement. He was about to rush over watching the Divine Phoenix arc that was stopping. Number 1 under heaven grabbed him. Don't go near yet, lest something unexpected happens. That's right, Yuanba. It is said that Feng Henkong's profound strength is at the peak of Tyrant Profound Realm. If something unexpected happened, only you can protect Her Majesty, Qin Wusheng reminded in a low voice. I understand, Xia Yuanba nodded. He kept a 10-step distance from Kang Yue and stopped acting rashly. When the door of the Divine Phoenix arc opened, Yun Qi was the first one to walk out before slowly landing. Seeing that Yun Qi was safe and sound, Kang Yue's bright eyes flickered with infinite joy. She couldn't care for the occasion or even her own identity as she moved towards him with her phoenix robe fluttering. Husband, you're back. Amen. Yun Qi held onto Kang Yue's hand, and then turned over and said, the esteemed guest that I mentioned in the sound transmission is also here already. Under the ark's door, which had yet to be closed, a silhouette of a man in scarlet clothes appeared. Feng Henkong came out of the ark's door, but he didn't land immediately. Instead, he looked around and smelled the smoke in the air. His dignity as an emperor and his boundless aura was null to Yun Qi, but that did not mean it did not affect the others. The moment his silhouette appeared, everyone's sight uncontrollably fell on him, but they absolutely didn't dare to look at his eyes. Even their breathing and heartbeat were stopped at that instant. Their chests and souls seemed to be pressed down by an iron plate as they trembled in fear under the pressure. The Emperor of Divine Phoenix! Without needing Yun Qi's explanation, the heavy and extremely prestigious aura made everyone instantly sure of his identity. An aloof, profound strength, aloof position, aloof identity. Under this scarlet-clothed man's gaze and pressure, even people like Dongfeng Xiu, who was at the peak plane of Blue Wind Nation, felt a strong inferiority. Yuanba, stay alert at all times, Dongfeng Xiu said in a low voice. Even though he was the palace chief of the Blue Wind Profound Palace, he clearly felt like a tiny ant in front of Divine Phoenix's Emperor and Phoenix Sect Master. None of them knew what exactly happened at Divine Phoenix, and they didn't know at all why Feng Henkong was here. So every single one of them were tensed, and their backs were soaked with cold sweat. He is the Emperor of Divine Phoenix, Feng Henkong. Yun Qi said to Kang Yue, don't worry, he is here as a sinner and won't do anything to harm us. Feng Hengkong's body sank from midair and landed in front of Yun Qi and Kang Yue. From the moment he showed up, the smile on Kang Yue's has completely frozen, and the hand that was held in Yun Qi's palms also tightened suddenly. She was trying her best to restrain, but her body was still shaking uncontrollably. Contained within her beautiful eyes was a hatred so deep, it had engraved itself into her bones and even the depths of her soul. He was the one who killed her father, trampled her homeland and citizens, made Blue Wind fall into a hell-like 3 years, who also made her suffer through 3 years of nightmare. Even though her hatred could fill the sky and earth, her opponent was the overly powered Divine Phoenix, so she never had the extravagant hope that she'll have the chance to revenge, never thought she'll see Feng Hengkong, or even one day be able to face the culprit of everything directly. Kang Yue's tiny hands turned cold really fast, and Yun Qi could clearly feel the shivering of fear from her body and the tremble in her breaths. Yun Qi held her hand even tighter and told her that he was right there by her side. Facing Kang Yue, who had lost control of her emotions' voice, Feng Hengkong still did not open his mouth, and his aura didn't decrease at all. Yun Qi said lightly, "Feng Hengkong, this is the Imperial Palace of Blue Wind Nation. The one in front of you is the current sovereign of Blue Wind Nation. You haven't forgot what you're here to do, right?" "HMPH," Feng Hengkong scoffed softly. "I am here now, and there is not a single guard or elder with me, so how could you possibly give us a way out? Empress Kang Yue, I know that I have caused your Blue Wind Nation to suffer from calamity these 3 years. The entire nation was in chaos, and out of everyone in Blue Wind Nation, you are definitely the one who hates me to the bones. Your royal father was assassinated under a direct order from me. Say however you would like for me to atone for my sins, we will absolutely not twitch at all." Even though Feng Hengkong had already clearly stated that he was here to atone for his sins, his tone and attitude were incredibly aggressive. After all, he was the emperor of the Divine Phoenix. In his eyes, or even to the most ordinary commoner in the Divine Phoenix Nation, Blue Wind Nation was an inferior land, and it has been like this since thousands of years ago when Blue Wind Nation was founded. He could acknowledge the fault and atone for his sin, but he would not show weakness. Because the reason why things developed this way was only because of Yun Qi, and not the Blue Wind Imperial family. Divine Phoenix's Emperor, Phoenix Sect Master, Feng Hengkong. Kang Yue's face was slightly pale. She kept enough calm and a monarch's dignity in her expression and voice. But the hatred that was flicking in her beautiful eyes couldn't be suppressed no matter what. "In these 1,000 years, my Blue Wind Imperial family has always been respectful towards your Divine Phoenix, but you actually harmed my Blue Wind in this way. I want you to give my Blue Wind a reason first." Feng Hengkong looked away, assuming an unresponsive posture. He is Divine Phoenix's Dog Emperor. Behind the crowd, the commander-in-chief of the Blue Wind Army, Feng Yunli, grabbed the handle of his sword. His face was completely red with malice, and the rushing rage and hatred made more than a dozen wounds on his face seem to burst open. Because of this person, the blood of so many brothers were spilled on the battlefield. Don't be rash. Not only is he the Emperor of the Divine Phoenix, he is also the sect master of the Divine Phoenix Sect. Even if there's 10,000 of you, you won't be able to hurt a single hair of his, said Qin Wusheng as he looked away. With a soft clang, Feng Yunli pulled out 3 inches of his steel blade. He stared at Feng Hengkong, gritted his teeth, and said harshly, "The dream that I've had the most was when I see this dog emperor and personally cut him into 1,800 pieces myself. Now that this dog emperor is right before my eyes, even if he is 10,000 times stronger, whoa." It was as if a large hammer suddenly slammed onto Feng Yunli's head. His expression that was filled with hatred and his eyes that was gazing forward suddenly became sluggish. Even the voice from his mouth slowly became drifty, as if he was sleep-talking. Not only Feng Yunli, but everyone's expressions and eyes all suddenly become sluggish and hazy at this moment. Because within their sights, a beautiful, fantasy-like scenery appeared. A young girl in scarlet clothing landed slowly from the Divine Phoenix Ark. The scarlet color on her phoenix robes were even richer than Feng Hengkong's, and the gold color was even more noble, more eye-catching Feng Hengkong's. When everyone looked towards her, their heart and soul turned like violent waves. Because that was a face and charm that was so beautiful, it was indescribable. The second their gaze fell, their whole person seemed to have instantly fallen into a fantastical dream as they witnessed a young girl walk out from that fantasy. Feng Xue'er landed softly and walked over slowly. In the past, she would appear occasionally in the sect, but she would be wearing her phoenix jade-glazed coronet and wouldn't reveal her face. But today, she was here with a pure, guilty, and sincere heart to atone for her sins, and she also got rid of the mask that she used to always wear. Kang Xue'er, who was facing Feng Xue'er directly, was also completely stunned. The girl in front of her was so beautiful that it was as if she was a divine maiden who had walked out from heaven, causing people to not dare believe that she would actually appear in the mortal world. As a fellow woman, when she saw Feng Xue'er, her entire soul, willpower, beliefs were all uncontrollably lost. Even the burst of hatred towards Feng Henkang was completely forgotten. In this world, there is actually someone whose beauty can beat Xia Qingyu. Kang Xue'er mumbled absent-mindedly and almost forgot Feng Henkang's existence. When Kang Xue'er was looking at Feng Xue'er was sizing her up as well, and even saw her attachment towards Yun Qi from her movements. She walked to Feng Henkang's side, stopped, and said softly, "Divine Phoenix's Royal Princess Feng Xue'er greets Empress Kang Xue'er." Her celestial voice was as soft as the wind as it breezed across everyone's hearts, making all those present feel like their souls were being purified. Feng Xue'er's head was slightly lowered and her knees slowly bended. "Xue'er, what are you doing?" Feng Xue'er's actions shocked Feng Henkang. He yelled loudly, and he even reached out his palm in lightning speed and grabbed onto Feng Xue'er's shoulders. However, after her phoenix soul awakened, Feng Xue'er had the profound strength that could even defeat Feng Tianwei easily. How could Feng Henkang's strength be enough to stop her? In Feng Henkang's pupils that were enlarged to their largest, Feng Xue'er faced Kang Xue'er. Her knees touched the ground as she kneeled down properly. "Xue'er, what are you doing? Get up now, get up. There is no one qualified in this world for you to kneel down to. Xue'er." Feng Henkang dragged Feng Xue'er's arms, wanting to pull her up. But despite using all of the strength in his body and the voice in his throat already becoming hoarse, he couldn't move Feng Xue'er's body even a little bit. "There is no one qualified for you to kneel to in this world." What Feng Henkang had said was not exaggerated at all. Because not only was she the only princess of Divine Phoenix Empire and Divine Phoenix Sect, she was the future god of the Divine Phoenix Sect. Not only that, she was the only one in the entire profound sky continent to have accepted the complete legacy of a divine spirit. She was the person who possessed the most noble of bloodlines, and was the person closest to being a god. When she fully matured, her power would surpass the Saint Emperor, Sovereign of the Seas, Heavenly Monarch, and the Sword Master, the four unparalleled sacred grounds masters. The divine bloodline that she possessed was something that others would not be able to get no matter how long they worked or how bountiful their resources were. So, after the Phoenix God disappeared, there really wasn't a more noble existence on the profound sky continent than her. As the Emperor of the Divine Phoenix, all 14 of Feng Henkang's sons needed to greet him every day with bended knees. But all these years, he had never let Feng Xue'er kneel before him. Even if Feng Xue'er wanted to, he wouldn't allow it, or it could be said that he didn't dare to accept it. But now, she kneeled down, in front of the Emperor of a lowly nation like Blue Wind. The Emperor of Blue Wind, for the longest time, was someone that even the lowest level of the Divine Phoenix disciples would slant their eyes to despise, or even not care for at all. Her kneeling down had already become a fact. Feng Henkang couldn't stop it, and couldn't even make her stand up. After a long moment of panicking, he sighed in sorrow. How could Feng Xue'er not know that she herself was the second Phoenix God of the Divine Phoenix Sect? And how could she not know the nobleness of her bloodline and identity? However, she still kneeled down in front of the Emperor of the small, tiny Blue Wind Nation, all to get him, the father to atone for his sins. His pressuring aura from before was gone completely. Feng Henkang's face was twitching in the end. The blood debt and sin that he caused was being bore and redempted by Feng Xue'er and him together. This deep regret made this high and mighty Emperor of 100 years can't help but want to weep loudly. Bang! Feng Henkang's knees fell onto the ground heavily. In his whole life, he had only kneeled down to the Phoenix God, to his birth parents, and at this moment, he kneeled down heavily in front of Kang Xue'er. Seeing Feng Xue'er kneel down to atone for his sins, how could he deserve to support his dignity as an emperor? Divine Phoenix's Emperor Feng Henkang, for one's own selfish desire, acted disregarding all dissent and stopped at nothing, trampling down the people of Blue Wind as blood flowed in rivers. The sins are most heinous and aroused great fury from both men and gods and cannot be forgiven. Today, I've only come to ask for Blue Wind's Emperor to denounce my sins. Even if Blue Wind wishes to take my life, I shall have no complaints nor regrets. Feng Henkang kept his head low and said these words that he never thought he would say in his life word by word. The entire Blue Wind Imperial Palace was so silent that if a needle could be heard if it fell. Xia Yuanba, Dongfeng Ziu, Qin Wusheng, Feng Yunli, and the others were all stunned on the spot. Their brains had completely shut down and they couldn't believe what they were seeing and hearing. Kang Yue was also stunned in place and didn't know what to do for a moment. Yun Qi reached out his hand to Feng Xue'er, but once he took a step forward, he slowly stepped back. He knew that this was too hard on Feng Xue'er. Like Feng Henkang had yelled, there was no one qualified in this world to make her kneel, not even Feng Xue'er's father, Feng Henkang. But perhaps this could make Feng Xue'er feel a bit better in her heart. Her soul was too pure and good. When she found out the truth about everything, the sin and blood debt that Feng Henkang carried heavily pressured onto her soul. During the 2-day, 1-night journey on the Divine Phoenix Arc, he continuously felt a faint aura of pressure caused by guilt on Feng Xue'er. Kang Yue had never expected that this kind of situation would actually arise. She hated Feng Henkang to the bones, but upon facing such an unexpected situation that no one would dare believe even if they saw it with their own eyes, she felt completely lost. She could only stare at Yun Qi, who was beside her, with pleading eyes. "Husband, what exactly is this?" "Let them get up first," said Yun Qi. "I will explain everything to you once we're inside." Kang Yue slightly nodded her head and gradually regained her frame of mind as she took a few steps forward. Facing Feng Xue'er, she held out her hand and said, "Little sister Xue'er, please get up. Little sister Xue'er has a very noble, unparalleled status. Such a huge courtesy is quite terrifying to even me." Feng Xue'er drooped her head down and said softly, "The Blue Wind Empress words are too kind. As the one who bears sins, Xue'er is supposed to be begging for forgiveness on the knees. I can only hope that this will quell Empress Kang Yue's anger." Kang Yue shook her head as she reached out and helped Feng Xue'er up. Upon personally seeing Feng Xue'er, she couldn't help but marvel that there was actually such a dreamlike, perfect existence in the world. If there was a single woman who could be considered favored by the heavens, then it could only be the young girl before her eyes. Although I have never stepped out of Blue Wind Nation, I have still heard the name of Divine Phoenix Empire's Princess Snow many times. Now that I've seen you with my own eyes, I have realized that you are many times better than the rumors." Kang Yue exclaimed. Extreme anger and hatred towards a person could easily be spread to their loved ones. However, when she faced Feng Xue'er, Kang Yue, who hated Feng Henkang to the bones, could not feel even the slightest resentment. Or perhaps it was because there was no one in the world who could possibly hate her. "Feng Henkang, you get up too." Kang Yue once again turned around as her voice became calm and cold. "This is not the place for us to talk. Follow me to the Blue Wind Hall." Looking at the signal that Yun Qi was giving with his eyes, Kang Yue said to Dongfeng Ziu, "Palace Chief Dongfeng, stand guard outside and prevent anyone from coming in. Also, do not mention to anyone what you have seen just now." "Yes." Dongfeng Ziu bowed slightly, then glanced at Feng Henkang. Just as he wanted to remind Kang Yue to be cautious, he suddenly thought back to when Feng Xue'er and Feng Henkang kneeled down to show penance. He immediately swallowed back his words. After watching Kang Yue, Yun Qi, Feng Henkang, and Feng Xue'er head into the Blue Wind Hall, Dongfeng Ziu and the others looked at each other. Some of them were still dumbstruck, unable to regain their composure. "What exactly is happening? Is that really the Divine Phoenix Emperor?" Feng Yunli stared with wide-opened eyes. Even after thinking so much till his head had almost exploded, he still couldn't understand what had just transpired before him. That was the Divine Phoenix Emperor who looked down upon the world, the Phoenix ruler. Although they were both rulers of a nation, Feng Yunli, as the general of the Blue Wind Nation, couldn't help but admit that the words Phoenix ruler could completely outweigh the words Blue Wind ruler 1,000 times. Feng Henkang personally coming here had already shocked everyone. However, what people could have never dreamt of was that he was kneeling down in front of the Blue Wind Empress. He was even shouting with a voice that was full of regret and remorse. "That guy really is Divine Phoenix Nation's Emperor Feng Henkang. I've seen him 3 years ago." Xia Yuanba was very sure as he spoke. "That young woman, could she be the legendary Princess Snow of Divine Phoenix? Amen, she is Princess Snow. But I didn't expect that she would also come. Well, 3 years ago, her and brother-in-law's relationship was very good." Xia Yuanba rubbed his head in uncertainty. "After all, Yun Qi has met an accident in the primordial profound arc after saving her 3 years ago, Princess Snow, the heaven-sent treasure of the Divine Phoenix Empire, the most beautiful woman in the profound sky continent." Her reputation is indeed well-deserved, Dongfeng Xiu heavily praised. As expected of Brother Yun, within just a few short days, he had actually reversed such an extreme situation to such a degree. Number one under heaven spoke in an extremely hushed tone that only he himself could hear. But what's even more unexpected is that, in this world, there exists a woman whose appearance is comparable to the little demon empress. Blue Wind Hall was a field of silence. Feng Hengkang stood at the center of the hall and took a glance at everything around here. He had once imagined that he would personally step inside the Blue Wind Imperial Palace. However, he had never thought that it would happen under such circumstances. Similarly, even Kang Yue had never thought that she would be in such a situation with the person she hated the most. Yun Qi had already explained the situation with Divine Phoenix to Kang Yue just now. Even though the one that contributed the most was him, the ruler of Blue Wind Nation was still Kang Yue. Yun Qi's each and every action was also because of her. Because of that, the decision as to how Feng Hengkang would atone for his sins would ultimately fall in her hands. Little sister Xue'er, please be seated. Kang Yue's treatment towards Feng Xue'er and Feng Hengkang was vastly different. She spoke gently and softly towards Feng Xue'er because she had already understood why this heaven-favored girl would come here and even kneel in front of her. Even if she had removed all those reasons, there was no one who could harbor resentment nor any ill feelings towards her. Thank you, Empress Sis. Feng Xue'er did not take a step back. Instead, she just sat down beside Yun Qi. Feng Hengkang, have you willingly come to atone for your sins? Kang Yue turned around. Facing Feng Hengkang, her expression instantly turned cold. After getting down from the Divine Phoenix Arc and setting foot on Blue Wind territory, if Feng Hengkang was still unwilling to let go of his pride, then Feng Xue'er's kneel, which had washed away all the anguish and pain in Kang Yue's heart, would all go down the drain. Although Feng Hengkang could sacrifice himself for all the numerous blood debts that he had committed, he could only plead that Feng Xue'er should not bear them. For that, he would make every effort to atone for his sins, even if he lost his dignity as the Divine Phoenix Emperor, or even his life. We have come here today in order to atone for our sins. We know that we have brought a huge disaster upon Blue Wind, with crimes so many that even us dying 1,000 times would not suffice. As long as we can pacify Blue Wind and Empress Kang Yue's resentment, then we are willing to accept anything with no regrets. Xue'er, during my time in Phoenix City, I have already given them some conditions, and they have also agreed to it, Yun Qi said. After which, he began narrating what had transpired above Phoenix City, him facing against Feng Hengkang and Feng Tianwei, and also the 5 conditions he had given them in detail. Whenever Yun Qi had spoken out his conditions, especially the last 5 conditions he had yesterday, Feng Hengkang's expression would always turn livid, and he would always roar in anger, almost blowing his lungs out in the process. But now, while listening to Yun Qi stating all of the conditions, regardless the compensations, annexations, crippling his profound arts, making him kneel for 100 years, or even towards the 5th condition which stated that he had to pay tribute for several hundred years, his face remained calm and did not show any changes. Instead, it was Kang Yue, while listening to Yun Qi listing down the conditions, who gradually revealed a shocked expression. She did hate Feng Hengkang and Divine Phoenix Empire very much, however. When Yun Qi was done listing out all the 5 conditions, she realized that they were all overbearing and extremely brutal. If all of those conditions were implemented on Divine Phoenix Nation, then the 5,000 years of prestige it would be ruthlessly trampled by Blue Wind, the smallest, weakest nation that had only existed for no more than 1,000 years. They would always have to hide in an abyss of shame, not to mention in Blue Wind's 1,000 years of history, even in the history of Profound Sky. These harsh conditions that were placed just to atone for their sins had never once happened before. All these conditions, your Divine Phoenix, especially you, Feng Hengkang, you are willing to agree to them. Kang Yue wrinkled her brows and looked into the eyes of the Divine Phoenix Emperor without fear. She wanted to hear his affirmation from his own mouth. Yes. Feng Hengkang shut his eyes and answered without any hesitation. Good. As Kang Yue's lofty chest heaved up and down, her gaze had also become sharper and deeper. Empress Sis. Feng Xue'er quickly stood up and faced Kang Yue as she requested. Xue'er knows that Royal Father has committed a grave mistake, and all the compensation that Big Brother Yun Qi had mentioned should be done. But about crippling Royal Father's profound arts and the matter of him staying in Blue Wind for 100 years, I beg Sister Kang Yue to please have mercy. Royal Father has a special identity. Not only is he the Emperor of Divine Phoenix Nation, he is also the sect master of Divine Phoenix Sect. If he stayed in Blue Wind for 100 years, then the Divine Phoenix will be in turmoil, and the Divine Phoenix Sect will also face difficulties in maintaining its stability. Although everything that Royal Father had done was brought onto himself, as his daughter, Xue'er should also carry some of the burden. Therefore, I ask Empress Sis to show some sympathy to Xue'er's selfishness and Divine Phoenix's situation. Please let Xue'er stay in Blue Wind as Royal Father's replacement. For the other compensation, when Royal Father goes back, he will implement it in the shortest amount of time. Empress Sis, please. Xue'er, this matter does not concern you. Feng Hengkong said, Empress Kang Yue, you should know that other parties should not be responsible in taking in another's debt. Your Royal Father's death and the situation in Blue Wind were all caused by us. Everything that happened has nothing to do with our daughter. During these 3 years, she had always been in a coma. She isn't involved in the slightest. Right now, we just want to atone for our sins. No matter what you want us to do today, we will absolutely not twitch at all. But Xue'er is someone that we would never let any of you touch. Feng Hengkong's expression became serious and filled with determination. At this time, Feng Xue'er's heart became anxious. Royal Father, you have already agreed to let Xue'er come. Do you not care about the Divine Phoenix and the sect? Feng Hengkong shook his head slowly. Xue'er, to Royal Father, your safety is even more precious than Royal Father's life, the sect, and even everything in the whole world. If we had to choose, then we would rather destroy Divine Phoenix and the sect than let you suffer the slightest bit of injury. Kang Yue, Yun Qi, no, it won't happen. I will stay here. With Big Brother Yun here to protect me, I definitely won't be harmed in any way. I will pay respects to Empress Sis Royal Father and pray for the Blue Wind, Divine Phoenix, and Royal Father every day. After 100 years of atonement, I will go back to Phoenix City. If Royal Father misses me, then he can come here and visit me anytime. Feng Xue'er smiled as though she had no worries about the future. Divine Phoenix can do without Xue'er, but it is not able to do without Royal Father. This matter concerns the entire nation Nan sect. Royal Father cannot afford to be impulsive. Xue'er, we... Royal Father, Feng Xue'er softly interrupted Feng Hengkong's next words. Xue'er has always been spoiled and protected by Royal Father while growing up, and has even received Lord Phoenix God's favor. However, I have never done anything for Royal Father, nor for the Divine Phoenix Sect. Now that I can finally share some of my Royal Father's burden, Xue'er can only feel happiness and satisfaction in her heart. I do not feel wronged or afraid. Besides, there is still Xue'er's most favorite Big Brother Yun here. If I can see Big Brother Yun a lot, Xue'er would be happier here than in Phoenix City. Don't forget, 3 years ago, Big Brother Yun risked his life in order to protect Xue'er. With Big Brother Yun by my side, Xue'er will be completely safe, and Royal Father would not have to worry about anything, right? Xue'er, you... Feng Hengkong stretched out his hand, wanting to touch Feng Xue'er's shoulder. At this moment, he couldn't prevent his eyes from turning hazy. Empress Sis, in my heart, Big Brother Yun will always be the nicest person in the world. Since you are Big Brother Yun's wife, you must also be the gentlest and most kind-hearted empress in the world. So please pardon my Royal Father's life and freedom, and let Xue'er replace her Royal Father by staying here. In the future, Xue'er and her Royal Father will give our all to repent and redeem all the crimes that we have done during these 3 years. I beg Empress Sis to fulfill my wish. Xue'er will always remember Empress Sis' kindness. Each and every word Feng Xue'er spoke dealt a heavy blow to Feng Hengkong's mind, and also shook Kang Yue's mind at the same time. Gazing at her snow-like face and her eyes that were 1,000,000 times more beautiful than the stars, Kang Yue's heart strongly throbbed. She was very clear of Feng Xue'er's status. Feng Xue'er had the most precious bloodline in the entire profound Sea continent, and in the future, she would eventually become the Divine Phoenix Sect's god. Both her identity and status would excel Feng Hengkong in the future. It would even surpass every living being in the profound Sky continent. Beneath Feng Xue'er's gaze, Kang Yue did not speak for a long time. After a while, she turned her head and looked towards Yun Qi, seeking his help. This matter can only be decided by you. No matter what decision you make, I will always support you, Yun Qi said with a smile. He believed that, in the end, Kang Yue would make the best decision. Kang Yue slowly turned around, and step by step, she walked towards the Emperor's throne with small strides. At the same time, the hall quieted down, and only the sound of her phoenix gown dragging across hall could be heard. At the end of the great hall, Kang Yue stopped, raised her head and looked forward. There, the portrait of her late father, Kang Wan, who died 3 years ago, was posted. At this moment, time seemed to have stopped. As Kang Yue silently stared at Kang Wan's unmoving portrait, her pupils trembled and turned hazy. No one could ever know the complicated feelings in her heart, nor the difficulty of the choices she was about to make. After a long 15 minutes had passed, Kang Yue's voice finally sounded at the Great Hall. "Feng Henkang," she gently said, "if I was an ordinary woman, the hatred I have towards you for killing my father will definitely disable us from living under the same sky. I will not even hesitate to personally chop your body to 1,000,000 pieces. But even if I can borrow my husband's power and kill you right now, I can't do it." Kang Yue turned around and took a slow and heavy step. "Because I am the monarch of Blue Wind Nation. If you lose your life in Blue Wind, then Divine Phoenix will be in chaos. The disaster my Blue Wind is facing will continue, and it might even intensify. Not even your commands before your death could prevent anything. Crippling your profound arts and letting you stay in Blue Wind for 100 years is of the same principle. Once the seed of vengeance is planted, it will definitely erupt in a few decades, few centuries, or perhaps even several centuries. My Blue Wind's still a weak nation after all, so once it erupts, I am sure that the only one who will suffer is my Blue Wind. Therefore, I will never forgive you, but I will not kill you. Feng Henkang, I will not kill you, and I will not force you to cripple your profound arts. I will also not force you to kneel in front of my royal father's tomb for 100 years. Because even if you kneel for 1,000,000 years, royal father will never come back from the dead. Seeding Red Jade City, 200 years of tribute in profound crystals, profound iron, phoenix armor. I don't want any of that." Feng Henkang's brows abruptly shot up as an expression of disbelief emerged on his face. "Ah," Feng Xue'er covered her lips with her hand. "Empress Sis, are you serious?" Xianxia also had a shocked expression. "Although I am a woman, since I am the Empress of Blue Wind, whatever I say will naturally be as good as gold." Kang Yue calmly replied, "Among the 5 conditions that were mentioned, I will only keep one. As for the rest, I will not insist on them. The compensation of 50 billion, Kang Yue spoke with determination, I will only keep this one. Because right now, Blue Wind Nation is in a disastrous state, and many of the citizens are left with no homes. We need all this wealth to rebuild their homes." Really?" The mere fact that Feng Henkang did not need to self-expunge his profound arts and remain in this place had already fulfilled Feng Xue'er's greatest wish. Her heart was filled with boundless joy, surprise, and gratitude. Feng Henkang's mouth was wide open, and he could not believe his own ears. No need to annex his land, no need to offer tributes, and even the apology edicts were not needed. Their Divine Phoenix could just preserve their dignity just like that. However, I have 2 additional conditions. Kang Yue's pupils contracted as she stared at Feng Henkang. "Empress Sis, please state it. If it can be done, Royal Father and Xue'er will definitely try our hardest to accomplish it." Feng Xue'er joyfully said. "First," Kang Yue's voice became calm and solemn as she continued, "countless homes in my Blue Wind cities have been destroyed, and currently the entire nation is in chaos. By solely relying on the power of my Blue Wind, it is very difficult to stabilize it in a short time. Therefore, in the next 5 years, you will send more than 60% of your army to aid in rebuilding my Blue Wind." Of the 5 conditions, only the monetary condition remained. This was a blessing that he didn't even dare believe even in a dream. Initially, Feng Henkang thought that each of the 2 additional conditions would be difficult to accomplish. However, he never expected that the first condition that Kang Yue had mentioned would actually be so simple. He slightly nodded his head. "All right, we promise. We will bring 70% of the Divine Phoenix army to stay in Blue Wind and allow Empress Kang Yue and various regional lords to command them. Furthermore, we will also establish strict orders stating that they are not to offend the citizens of Blue Wind." "Good." Kang Yue nodded her head as a sign that she trusted his words. Afterwards, her gaze shifted away from Feng Henkang towards Feng Xue'er. "The second condition is even simpler, Princess Snow. Feng Xue'er, I want you to marry my husband and become his concubine." "What did you say?" Kang Yue's words instantly caused Feng Henkang's expression to change. Along with a loud roar, the stone bricks beneath his feet instantly cracked and exploded. The entire Great Hall violently shook as sand and dust rustled and fell. Even though Xianxia was sitting still, the tea set beside his hand was thrown up high, and when it landed back, it had shattered to pieces. Everyone waiting outside of the hall were all stunned by the shock. Without saying a word, Xia Yuanba was about to rush in. But just as he stepped out, he was stopped by number one under heaven, who shook his head and said, "Don't be rash, Brother Yun is inside." For the Phoenix Sect Master to react so severely, does that mean you are unwilling? Facing Feng Henkang's sudden outburst, Kang Yue didn't panic at all. Not even a ripple surfaced in her eyes. Just this alone was something that an ordinary person absolutely wouldn't be able to do. Not only was Feng Henkang the Emperor of Divine Phoenix, he was also a level 10 overlord. The sudden burst of aura that came from him was enough to scare a throne into limping. This is outrageous. Feng Henkang had just mentioned that Feng Xue'er was his reverse scale that absolutely could not be touched. Yet the condition Kang Yue posed had directly touched his reverse scale. If it wasn't for the situation, he would have already attacked out of fury and killed whoever said these words, no matter who that person was. We were originally impressed by Empress Kang Yue's grace and compassion, but we didn't think that behind your grace and compassion, you are actually targeting our Divine Phoenix's most precious treasure. Feng Henkang tightly clenched his fists as he said, full of rage, "Xue'er is not only our daughter, but she is also the sole inheritor of profound Sky Continent's only divine spirit, and is the future Phoenix god of our Divine Phoenix Sect. How could a mere Yunqi be worthy enough for her? And you actually want Xue'er to become his concubine? This is outrageous. We'd like to ask Empress Kang Yue to stop daydreaming. It is indeed possible that little sister Xue'er is the most outstanding woman in the entire profound Sky Continent. Anyone who has seen Xue'er probably wouldn't deny it," Kang Yue said without compromising. "But this Empress husband is also the inheritor of the Phoenix God's bloodline. He started cultivating the profound at the age of 16, made a name for himself at the age of 17, became Blue Wind's #1 at the age of 19, and defeated the 6 nations at the 7-nation ranking tournament alone, of which it naturally included your Divine Phoenix. Now he is only 22 years old, yet he alone made your great Divine Phoenix Sect so miserable, and forced you, the Phoenix Sect Master, to bear an enormous amount of unwillingness and humiliation to come to Blue Winto, personally atone for your sins. Among the same age group, the achievements this Empress husband have attained are unprecedented in Blue Wind's entire history, and there will absolutely not be another one. How is he not worthy of your daughter?" Kang Yue's voice was filled with deep pride. In her eyes, there were only people who were unworthy of Yunqi in this world, and not people whom Yunqi was not worthy enough for. "I will say it again, stop daydreaming," Feng Henkang said in an incredibly deep voice. He used all of his patience to suppress his anger that was about to completely lose control. "Then I asked the Phoenix Sect Master to give a sufficient enough reason that could convince this Empress. If I say he's not worthy enough, then he's not worthy enough." Feng Henkang's cold voice revealed anger that would lose control at any moment. "Just based on the fact that my daughter is the future Phoenix god, there is no one in this world who could be worthy enough for Xue'er. What a simple excuse." Kang Yue smiled lightly as she went head-to-head against Feng Henkang. In terms of profound strength, the two were worlds apart, and there was 100 years of difference between the time they took their throne. But momentum-wise, she wasn't suppressed by Feng Henkang at all. However, this Empress has several reasons for why Feng Xue'er must marry Yunqi. Not should, but must. Kang Yue heavily emphasized the word must. "HMPH?" Feng Henkang turned his head, not bothering to respond. He posed an attitude as if even if you talk your head off, he would still turn his nose up at it. Firstly, according to this Empress, knowledge, Feng Xue'er's Phoenix blood, was given directly by your Divine Phoenix Sect's Phoenix spirit. And so her body has the most original and purest Phoenix bloodline. In your Divine Phoenix Sect, other than Feng Xue'er, there is no one else who have the original Phoenix blood. But Yunqi's Phoenix blood was also given directly by the Phoenix spirit. So he also has the most original and purest Phoenix bloodline. With regards to this fact, this Empress knows better than anyone else, because when Yunqi was going through the Phoenix's trial and inheritance, this Empress was by his side. Thus, based on the Phoenix bloodline, even if it's your Divine Phoenix Sect, no one is worthy of Feng Xue'er. And only the bloodline of this Empress, husband Yunqi, perfectly fits with Feng Xue'er's. Feng Henkang locked his eyebrows and did not say a word. All of these he already knew. Secondly, Phoenix Sect Master should not forget that today. You're here to atone for your sins. This Empress' hatred has been burning for 3 consecutive years. And if it wasn't for hundreds of millions of Blue Wind citizens, this Empress carries on her back. This Empress really wishes to use this chance to give Divine Phoenix Nation the cruelest punishment, to the extent of personally taking your life as tribute to Royal Father. Kang Yue's words were very calm, but the deep hatred and anger that was accumulated under her calm tone could still be clearly felt. However, this empress made such decision in the end, because if Feng Xue'er marries this empress, husband to Blue Wind, it could calm the citizens' frightened emotions. We can rely on Divine Phoenix as protection, not fear any bullying of war, and my Blue Wind citizens will enjoy a long period of stability. To your Divine Phoenix, you don't need to apologize in front of the world, don't need to cede away your territory, don't need to pay compensation, and don't need to be humiliated. You don't need to lose your respect and dignity, you won't become a joke, and the people of Divine Phoenix Nation will also not be in panic and chaos. Divine Phoenix Nation can keep its dignity and stability, and you, the Phoenix Sect Master, can keep your freedom and life. At the same time, your daughter will also find the best home in the world. This is the most merciful and compassionate this Empress, a woman who carries the hatred of her father being murdered and her country being destroyed can give. If you were to agree, both nations will be satisfied. If you don't, then this Empress will take back all the grace and mercy. Feng Henkang. Thirdly, Kang Yue's voice did not pause at all. Her phoenix-like eyes kept staring straight at Feng Henkang. Since the Phoenix Sect Master keeps saying that this Empress, husband Yuan-Chi, is not worthy enough of your daughter, then can Phoenix Sect Master please tell me who, in the entire profound sky continent, is more qualified than Yuan-Chi for your daughter? Feng Henkang moved his lips but was speechless for a long time. This time it wasn't because Feng Henkang couldn't bother to respond, but because he was truly speechless. What Kang Yue said before didn't really affect him, but as of this moment, when his mind scrutinized Kang Yue's words, he suddenly realized that among the same age group, he really couldn't find anyone that could compare to Yuan-Chi. The Yuan-Chi who forced his Divine Phoenix Sect to such an extent was only 22 years old this year. At this age, the people in the same age group in Divine Phoenix Sect, aside from Feng Xue'er, he couldn't even find someone worthy enough to carry his shoes for him. The strongest practitioners in the world were all gathered in Divine Phoenix Sect and the 4 great sacred grounds. Even if it was the 4 great sacred grounds, not to mention the age group around the 20s, he couldn't even think of anyone that could compare to Yuan-Chi in the 60s. These days, he was immersed in the disaster brought by Yuan-Chi, so he ignored a fact that could shock the entire continent while being heavily stressed day and night. The Yuan-Chi who had died and came back 3 years later among the younger generation of the profound sky continent could very possibly fully deserve the title of number 1. Then, if there was only one person who was good enough for Feng Xue'er, it would undoubtedly be Yuan-Chi. Looks like Phoenix Sect Master can't name one. Noticing Feng Henkang finally showing a change in expression, Kang Yue smiled slightly. That means this Empress' third reason is also established. Fourthly, Kang Yue continued to speak, I heard that Sister Xue'er grew up under the shield of Divine Phoenix Sect before she was 13, and after she turned 13, she was under the protection of the entire Divine Phoenix Sect. She has never truly stepped into the real world, so she must not know much about the relationship between a man and a woman. Therefore, little Sister Xue'er might not understand what kind of feeling she has towards Yuan-Chi. But I believe with Phoenix Sect Master's experience and wisdom, you must be able to tell that little Sister Xue'er's feeling towards Yuan-Chi is absolutely not as simple as just the gratitude for saving her. SSS. Kang Yue's words made Feng Henkang gnashed his teeth as his whole body shivered violently. Yes, how could he have not seen and felt it? That was why his chest felt like it was going to explode when he heard that Yuan-Chi was still alive. He lost control of his emotions, and he wanted to kill him no matter what. Because of that, when he suddenly heard Kang Yue request Feng Xue'er to marry to Yuan-Chi, his sinking emotion and aura for atoning his sins exploded uncontrollably in an instant. Kang Yue was always extremely curious of Princess Snow, the profound sky's #1 beauty, who Yuan-Chi had willingly to risk his life to save. Now that she finally saw her, in addition to being impressed by goddess-like looks, she also saw the unusual expression Feng Xue'er had when facing Yuan-Chi, and she also heard the different emotion in her voice when she says, Big Brother Yun. Even though only 30 minutes had passed since she met her, Kang Yue had already saw through a lot of things. Looking at Feng Xue'er, it was like she saw herself back then when she met Yuan-Chi. That time, she couldn't contain her joy, happiness, warmth, and satisfaction. She let go of her defenses and opened her heart completely. Are you done saying what you want to say? Feng Henkang clenched his fists tightly. No. Kang Yue shook her head and continued to speak slowly. This empress knows that Phoenix Sect master rejected rudely without hesitation out of the love and protective instinct of a father towards his daughter. So it is already a given that he would not be tolerant of sacrificing his own daughter in exchange for compromisation. However, Phoenix Sect master, after this empress has said this much, I believe you have a reason to reconsider whether or not little sister Xue'er marrying Xianxia is a sacrifice. Not only does little sister Xue'er have the feelings of gratitude towards Xianxia, there is also the feeling between a man and a woman. Since she is your daughter, you must see it a lot clearer than this empress. And even though this empress, husband always has a tender heart towards women, he would definitely not risk his life for any beautiful woman. To find someone that she adores who is even willing to protect her with his life, Phoenix Sect master. Do you know that, to a woman, this is the greatest happiness and luck in life? Yet little sister Xue'er has already found someone like this. Once someone like this is found, then that someone will be unforgettable for life. Phoenix Sect master said earlier that to you, little sister Xue'er is more important than your own life, and even the life and death of Divine Phoenix Empire and Divine Phoenix Sect. If you forcefully separate little sister Xue'er and Xianxia with little sister Xue'er's pure heart and soul, you will bring her an everlasting pain and trauma. The only conclusion would be you, who says that little sister Xue'er is more important than anything, personally giving her a lifetime of heartbreak because of your selfishness. You, Feng Henkang's body swayed. What Kang Yue had said had unquestionably dealt a huge blow. As such, this empress conditions are not threats, not humiliations, not sacrifices, but are compassion and fulfillment. Before Feng Henkang was able to speak of another word, Kang Yue's voice had already suppressed his. Of course, you can still choose to refuse. If you do, then you can pretend that this empress did not said any of the things from before. This empress will take back all the mercy and not give you any leeway. Kang Yue's last sentence was said with an overbearing power that even Xianxia felt a second of heaviness from. When Kang Yue asked for Feng Xue'er to marry him as a concubine, Xianxia was surprised for a while. After that, he looked at Kang Yue silently without saying anything, but in his heart there were already unappeasable waves. Back then, his Xue'er, his senior sister Xue'er, was independent, strong, but was also very tame, good, and delicate. When she was before him, she would show her weakness without any reserve. After their big wedding in the imperial palace, as a princess, she changed his clothes, sewed for him, and prepared him 3 meals a day. Everything was taken care of meticulously. She had almost completely forgotten her identity as a princess, because she wanted to become the most perfect wife that only belonged to him with all her heart. She saw him as her whole world and did not fight for anything nor ask for anything. The woman before him, who wore a phoenix coronet, golden clothing, and an awe-inspiring emperor's dignity, was facing Feng Henkang's boundless pressure, yet her aura was not weak or suppressed at all. Her unfathomably deep phoenix eyes were sometimes warm, sometimes cold, and sometimes sharp. Her voice went straight to the soul, and her words were incredibly sharp. She was smart, calm, impeccable, and her words almost made Feng Henkang's aura, which had exploded under his rage, completely disperse. 3 years. It had merely been 3 years, yet she had changed this tremendously. If it was someone else, they would not be able to change this much in 30 years, or even 300 years, however. Xianxia was not surprised at all that this happened to Kang Yue. He only felt a heavy heartache, shouldering the responsibility of an entire nation's destruction. Perhaps there was nothing worse in this world that induced, no, that forced a person to change so quickly. No person could possibly imagine the weight of the burden one carried after such a transformation. At least, what she had borne in the past 3 years was really much heavier than what the little demon empress undertook under the shadow of Duke Xue'er.